A courtroom without walls, a crime she didn't commit, a mafia boss who owns her escape. Sophie Mercer signs a contract that erases 17 fraudulent charges and puts her in Kane Varelli's penthouse for 3 months. No escape, no pride, just survival. But someone didn't just frame her, someone designed her destruction. And the man who can save her, he's been carrying her name for 10 years. If you want to see how far obsession, power, and buried truth can go, stay until the end. Hit like and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Sophie Mercer's career ended in a conference room on the 47th floor. Not with a bang, not with drama. Just a manila folder sliding across polished mahogany and a man in a gray suit who never looked her in the eye. 17 transactions, he said, all fraudulent, all bearing your digital signature. Sophie didn't move, didn't blink. She sat with her spine straight, hands folded in her lap, the way she'd been trained since business school. Control the room, control the narrative, control yourself. But her pulse was hammering. That's impossible, she said. Her voice came out steady. Good. I didn't authorize any of those. Your credentials were used. The man, Davidson, senior counsel, still wouldn't meet her eyes. Coward. Your login, your approval codes, the forensic audit confirms it. Then someone stole my access. We considered that. Davidson turned a page. The sound was too loud in the silence. It found no evidence of a breach, no unauthorized login attempts, no malware, nothing. Sophie's fingers tightened against each other. She forced them to relax. Then your IT department is incompetent. Davidson's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, not quite sympathy. Miss Mercer, the board has reviewed the evidence. They've made their decision, which is termination, effective immediately. And he hesitated. First time he'd shown anything resembling discomfort. Authorities have been notified. They'll be here within the hour. The floor didn't drop out from under her. That would have been too cinematic, too clean. Instead, the walls just tightened. The air went thin. Her vision narrowed to the folder, the table, Davidson's hands with their perfectly trimmed nails. You're saying I'm being arrested. I'm saying you should contact a lawyer. Sophie stood. Her chair scraped back. Every eye in the room tracked her, executives she'd worked beside for 3 years, people she'd had coffee with, laughed with. Now they looked at her like she was already gone. I didn't do this, she said. No one answered. She walked toward the door. Each step felt like wading through concrete. Her heels clicked against marble. Someone coughed. She didn't turn around. Her hand was on the door handle when it opened from the other side. The man who walked in didn't make noise. He didn't need to. Silence arrived first, then stillness, then a presence so absolute it rewrote the room's geometry. Kane Varelli. Sophie's breath stopped. He looked exactly the same. Exactly. 10 years and nothing had changed. Same sharp jaw, same cold dark eyes, same way of holding himself like gravity bent around him instead of the other way around. He wore black, expensive, tailored to the kind of precision that costs more than most people's cars. His hair was dark, cut close, and his face was the kind of beautiful that didn't soften anything. It made him more dangerous. He didn't look at her. Not yet. Gentlemen, Kane said. His voice was low, controlled, and it cut through the room like a blade. I'll need the room. Davidson stood. Mr. Varelli, we're in the middle of, I own this company as of 9:15 this morning. Kane's tone didn't shift, didn't rise. You work for me now. Leave. No one argued. They filed out. Davidson, the board members, the HR director who'd avoided Sophie's eyes for the last 20 minutes. One by one, they disappeared, and the door clicked shut. And then it was just the two of them. Kane turned. Their eyes met. Sophie forgot how to breathe. She'd spent a decade trying to bury what this man did to her. The way he'd seen through every defense she had. The way he'd matched her step for step, in debates that went until 3 a.m. and left her exhilarated and furious and alive in a way nothing else ever did. The way he'd looked at her the last time she saw him, like he was memorizing her, like he knew she was about to disappear. Sit down, Sophie. She didn't move. What are you doing here? Sit. Answer me. Kane walked toward her, slow, deliberate. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the faint scar along his jaw, the one he'd gotten in a fight she never got the full story about. "You're being framed," he said. Sophie's throat tightened. "I know that. You're going to prison unless someone intervenes. I have lawyers. Your lawyers won't help you." His gaze didn't waver. "The evidence is perfect. Someone spent months building this. They knew your routines, your access points, your behavioral patterns. This wasn't opportunistic. It was surgical." Her hands were shaking. She fisted them against her sides. "How do you know that?" "Because I looked." "Why?" Something flickered in his expression, too fast to name. "Sit down." This time Sophie sat. Kane moved to the other side of the table. He didn't sit. He stood with his hands in his pockets, looking down at her like a king surveying a chessboard. "I can make this disappear," he said. Sophie's heart slammed against her ribs. "What?" "The charges, the evidence, the people behind it." His voice was flat, matter of fact. "I can erase all of it." "That's not possible." "It is if you know where to apply pressure." Kane pulled a folder from inside his jacket, set it on the table between them. "I've already started." Sophie stared at the folder. Her name was on the tab. Her stomach twisted. "What's in there?" "A contract." "For what?" 3 months, Kane said. "You move into my penthouse. You present as my partner. You follow my rules." The room tilted. Sophie opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "You're insane. I'm offering you a way out." "That's not a way out, that's—" She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't make her brain process what he was saying. Kane's expression didn't change. "Refuse and you'll be in custody within the hour. Your trial will be a formality. You'll be convicted, sentenced. Your life ends today." "You can't just—" "I can." He leaned forward, palms flat on the table. "And I will, but only if you agree." Sophie's pulse was roaring in her ears. She looked at the folder, at him, at the door where armed authorities would walk through any second. "Why?" Her voice cracked. She hated it. "Why would you do this?" Kane was silent for a long moment. Then, "Because 10 years ago, I let you disappear. I'm not making that mistake again." The words landed like a fist to her sternum. Sophie couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She reached for the folder with numb fingers, flipped it open. The contract was dense. Legalese she'd have to parse later. But the terms were clear enough. 3 months. His residence, his control, her compliance. And at the bottom, 2 signature lines. "I need an answer," Kane said. Sophie looked up at him. At the man who'd once been her equal. Her match. The only person who ever made her feel like she was enough and not enough at the same time. The man who'd let her vanish without a fight. "If I sign this," she said slowly, "what happens after 3 months? You walk away free, clean record, new identity if you want it. I'll make sure no one ever connects you to this again. And if I don't comply, you won't be in a position to leave." The threat was implicit, absolute. Sophie's hand hovered over the pen he'd placed beside the folder. Pride said no. Survival said sign. She signed. Kane picked up the contract, folded it, tucked it back into his jacket. His expression gave nothing away. "Someone will be here in 10 minutes to escort you out," he said. "Pack light. Anything you need will be provided." Kane, he was already walking toward the door. "Wait." He stopped. Didn't turn around. "Why now?" Sophie's voice was raw. 10 years. You didn't call, didn't reach out. You let me go. So why now?" Kane looked back over his shoulder. For the first time, something cracked in his control. "Because you were always supposed to be mine," he said, "and I'm done pretending otherwise." Then he was gone. Bashab. The penthouse was on the 63rd floor of a building Sophie had walked past 100 times and never imagined entering. The elevator ride up was silent. The man escorting her, tall, built like a wall, no name given, didn't speak, didn't look at her, just stood with his hands folded and his gaze fixed on the ascending numbers. Sophie's suitcase sat at her feet. She'd packed in a daze, clothes, toiletries, her laptop. Everything felt surreal, like she was watching herself from a distance. The elevator doors opened. The penthouse was not what she expected. Clean lines, minimalist, floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city like a kingdom laid out for inspection. The furniture was expensive but understated. Dark leather, chrome accents, nothing flashy. It felt like Kane, controlled, precise, cold. "Your room is down the hall," the man said. First words he'd spoken. "Second door on the left. Mr. Varelli will be back tonight." Then he left. Sophie stood in the middle of the living room, suitcase in hand, and tried to process what the hell she'd just done. She'd signed her life over to a man she hadn't seen in 10 years. A man who still made her chest tight just looking at him. A man who'd let her go once and was now claiming he wouldn't again. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A text from an unknown number. "Make yourself comfortable. We have a lot to discuss when I get back." Sophie stared at the message. Then she walked down the hall, found the second door on the left, and stepped inside. The room was perfect. Not generically perfect, specifically perfect. The bed was the exact firmness she preferred. She'd complained about hotel mattresses enough times to know. The temperature was set to 68 degrees. There was a bookshelf stocked with titles she recognized. Books she'd mentioned loving in passing conversations a decade ago. And on the nightstand, a tin of the rare tea she drank when she couldn't sleep. The kind she'd only ever found in one shop in Boston. Sophie's hand started shaking. He didn't just remember her. He'd been carrying her for 10 years. She sat on the edge of the bed, tea tin in her hands, and tried not to fall apart. Basit. Kane came back at 11. Sophie heard the door open from where she sat in the living room, laptop open, pretending to work. She looked up. He stood in the doorway, jacket gone, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked tired, not visibly. His posture was still perfect, his expression still controlled, but something in his eyes was darker. "You settled in," he said. "I didn't have much choice." Kane crossed to the bar, poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking if she wanted one. He set one in front of her. Sophie didn't touch it. "We need to establish ground rules," Kane said. "You mean the ones you didn't include in the contract? The ones that keep you alive?" He sat across from her. "You don't leave this penthouse without me or someone I assign. You don't contact anyone from your old life. You don't make calls I don't approve. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected. From what?" Kane's jaw tightened. "From whoever set you up. They wanted you destroyed, Sophie, publicly, completely. That means they're not done." Sophie's stomach dropped. "You think they'll come after me again?" "I think they'll try." "Then why bring me here? Why not just—" "Because I can control what happens here." His gaze locked on hers. "And because I'm not letting you disappear again." There it was. The second time he'd said it. Sophie leaned back, arms crossed. "You keep saying that like you had no choice. Like I was taken from you." "You were." "Bullshit." The word came out sharp. "I left. I made that decision." "Did you?" Kane's voice went cold. "Or did someone make it for you?" Sophie froze. "What are you talking about?" Kane didn't answer. He just looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. "Get some sleep," he said finally. "We'll talk more tomorrow." He stood, grabbed his glass, and walked toward the hall. "Kane." He stopped. "I'm married." The words hung in the air. Kane turned slowly. His expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted, went sharp. "Say that again." Sophie forced herself to hold his gaze. "I'm married. To Felix Grant. 2 years." Silence. Then, "Where is he?" "I don't know. We're separated." "Since when?" 6 months. Kane studied her. His gaze dropped to her wrist, where her sleeve had ridden up, exposing the faint yellow-green edge of a bruise she'd tried to cover with makeup. His expression went completely still. "He hit you." It wasn't a question. Sophie pulled her sleeve down. "It's handled. Handled. I left. I filed for separation. It's over." Kane set his glass down, walked toward her, stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "What's his full name?" "Kane? His name, Sophie." She swallowed. "Felix Andrew Grant. But I'm telling you, it's not handled." His voice was soft, lethal. But it will be. Then he left. Sophie sat alone in the too-perfect living room, heart pounding, and realized she'd just made a terrible mistake. She'd told Kane Varelli about the man who hurt her, and Kane didn't solve problems. He erased them. She couldn't sleep. The bed was perfect. The room was silent. The city glittered outside her window like scattered diamonds. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Kane's face when she told him about Felix. That stillness. She knew what it meant. Sophie got up, pulled on a robe, padded barefoot into the kitchen. The penthouse was dark except for the ambient glow from the windows. She found the tea, started heating water. Can't sleep? She spun around. Kane stood in the doorway. He'd changed. Dark t-shirt, sweatpants. The first time she'd ever seen him in anything casual. It made him look younger, almost human. Almost. "I didn't mean to wake you," Sophie said. "You didn't." He moved into the kitchen, leaned against the counter. "I don't sleep much." "Why not?" "Hazard of the profession." "Which profession? CEO or—" She stopped. "Or mafia boss?" Kane's mouth curved, not quite a smile. "You can say it." Sophie poured hot water over the tea leaves, watched them unfurl. "Is it true?" "Which part?" "Any of it." Kane was quiet for a moment. "I run a business. Some of it's legitimate. Some of it isn't. I don't apologize for either." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting tonight." Sophie lifted the cup, inhaled the fragrant steam. Bergamot and something darker. "You remembered." "I remember everything about you." The words were simple, devastating. Sophie's hands tightened on the cup. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't say things like that. Don't look at me like—" She broke off, shook her head. "This is a transaction. You said so yourself. 3 months. I play the role. You erase the charges. That's all this is." Kane pushed off the counter, closed the distance between them. Sophie's breath caught. He stopped inches away, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off him, close enough to see the faint scar on his jaw, the darker flecks in his eyes. "You think this is just a transaction?" His voice was low, rough. "Isn't it?" "No." He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers brushed her cheek. "It stopped being a transaction the second you walked into that conference room." Sophie couldn't breathe, couldn't move. "Then what is it?" Kane's gaze dropped to her mouth, lingered. "Unfinished business." He stepped back, left her standing there with her heart racing and her thoughts in pieces. "Get some sleep, Sophie," he said over his shoulder. "Tomorrow we start preparing you for your new role." Then he was gone. Sophie stood in the dark kitchen, tea cooling in her hands, and wondered what the hell she'd gotten herself into. Morning came too fast. Sophie woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee she didn't make. She found Kane in the kitchen, dressed in another perfect suit, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered. "There's breakfast," he said, nodding toward the counter. "Pastries, fruit, the exact kind of coffee she preferred." "Of course." Sophie poured a cup, added cream, sat across from him. "So what's my role exactly?" "Partner, publicly." "Meaning?" "Meaning you attend events with me, dinners, galas, board meetings where it's useful to have you present." He set the tablet down. "You'll need a new wardrobe. I've arranged for a stylist this afternoon." "I have clothes." "Not for this, you don't." Sophie's jaw tightened. "I'm not a doll you can dress up." "No, you're a woman who needs to look the part of someone who belongs at my side." Kane's gaze didn't waver. "That requires a certain presentation." "You mean you need me to look like I'm yours?" "Yes." The bluntness of it stole her breath. "And what else?" Sophie asked. "What other rules haven't you mentioned?" Kane leaned back. "You don't lie to me. You don't hide things from me. You don't make decisions that affect your safety without consulting me first." "That's not reasonable." "It's non-negotiable." Sophie set her cup down too hard. Coffee sloshed. "You don't own me, Kane. Actually," he slid a piece of paper across the table. "For the next 3 months, I do." It was the contract, her signature at the bottom. Sophie stared at it, at the proof of what she'd agreed to in a moment of panic. "I want to renegotiate," she said. No. Kane, you signed. We both did. He stood, buttoned his jacket. The terms stand. You want out early, you go back to facing charges. Your choice. He walked toward the door, Sophie's hands fisted. I hate you. Kane stopped, looked back. No, you don't, he said quietly. That's the problem. Then he left. The stylist arrived at 2. A woman named Isabel, tall, elegant, terrifying, who took one look at Sophie and said, "We have work to do." 3 hours later, Sophie stood in front of a mirror and didn't recognize herself. The dress was black, simple, but it fit like it had been designed for her body specifically. The neckline was just low enough to suggest without showing. The hemline hit right above the knee. She looked expensive. Perfect, Isabel said. Mr. Varelli will be pleased. Sophie's stomach twisted. This isn't about pleasing him. Isabel's smile was knowing. Of course not. By the time Kane returned that evening, Sophie had a closet full of clothes she'd never chosen and a growing sense that she was being remade into someone she didn't recognize. He found her standing by the window, still in the black dress. It fits, he said. Sophie didn't turn around. Is that all you care about? No. He moved closer. She could see his reflection in the glass. But it's a start. A start to what? To making sure no one questions why you're with me. Sophie turned. And why am I with you, Kane? What's the story we're selling? The truth. His gaze held hers. That I've wanted you for 10 years. That I finally got you. That I'm not letting go. Her breath hitched. That's not the truth. Isn't it? Before she could answer, his phone buzzed. Kane pulled it out, glanced at the screen. His expression hardened. What? Sophie asked. Your husband filed a missing person report. The room tilted. What? Felix Grant reported you missing 2 hours ago. Kane's voice was flat. He's claiming you were kidnapped. He's involving police. Sophie's hands went numb. That's insane. I left him. He knows I left. Does he? Of course he does. I told him. Did you tell him you were moving in with another man? Sophie's throat closed. Kane's jaw tightened. He's playing victim, making you look unstable. It's strategic. Or he's actually worried. Men like Felix Grant don't worry, Sophie. They control. Kane pocketed his phone. I'm handling it. How? You don't need to know. He's my husband. He's a problem. Kane's voice went cold. And I solve problems. Sophie's pulse spiked. Don't hurt him. Why not? Because I'm asking you not to. Kane studied her for a long moment. You still care about him. I care about not becoming complicit in whatever you're planning. Too late. He turned toward the door. You signed the contract. What happens now is on both of us. Kane. The door closed. Sophie stood alone, heart hammering, and realized the trap she was in had just gotten tighter, because Kane Varelli didn't make idle threats, and Felix had just put himself in his crosshairs. 2 days passed. Felix's missing person report made headlines. Financial analyst missing. Husband fears foul play. Sophie watched the news coverage from Kane's penthouse, stomach churning. Felix's face filled the screen, handsome, concerned, the perfect image of a worried spouse. She's been under so much stress, he told reporters. The allegations at work, the pressure. I'm afraid she might have done something drastic. Lies. All of it. But the public ate it up. Sophie's phone, now monitored by Kane's people, exploded with messages from old friends, coworkers, her mother. She couldn't answer any of them. This is insane, she said to Kane that night. He's making me look unstable. He's making himself look sympathetic. Kane didn't look up from his laptop. It won't last. How do you know? Because I'm about to release evidence that Felix Grant has been embezzling from his own company for 3 years. Sophie's blood went cold. What? Financial records, offshore accounts, a mistress in Philadelphia. Kane finally looked at her. Your husband isn't a victim, Sophie. He's a criminal, and a bad one. You can't just... I already did. He closed the laptop. It goes live tomorrow morning. Sophie couldn't breathe. He'll know it was you. Good. Kane, he hurt you. The words were soft, lethal. Did you think I'd let that go unanswered? Sophie's throat tightened. This isn't about protecting me. This is about control. It's about both. She stood, hands shaking. I didn't ask you to do this. You didn't have to. That's not how this works. Kane rose, crossed to her in 3 strides. He stopped close, too close, and Sophie's back hit the window. You want to know how this works? His voice was low, controlled, devastating. You're mine now. That means anyone who hurts you answers to me. Anyone who threatens you is removed. Anyone who thinks they can take you back learns otherwise. I'm not yours. You signed the contract, Sophie. You put yourself in my hands. His gaze dropped to her mouth. So, yes, you are. Sophie's pulse roared. For 3 months. We'll see. Then he stepped back, leaving her gasping against the glass. Get some sleep, he said. We have a gala tomorrow night. I want you ready by 7. He walked away. Sophie slid down the window, legs shaking, and wondered how much of herself she'd lose before the 3 months were up. The gala was held in a historic mansion on the edge of the city. Sophie stood beside Kane in the black dress Isabel had chosen, diamonds at her throat that weren't hers, and felt like a fraud. Everyone stared. Of course they did. Kane Varelli didn't bring women to events. He didn't do public relationships. He was a ghost in expensive suits, powerful, untouchable, alone. Until tonight. Smile, Kane murmured beside her. His hand rested at the small of her back. Possessive. Unmistakable. Sophie's jaw tightened. I'm not a trained SEAL. No, you're a woman who's about to be introduced to some very dangerous people. So smile and let me do the talking. Before she could answer, a man approached. Silver hair, sharp suit, predatory smile. Kane, he said, I heard rumors you'd finally settled down. Didn't believe them. Believe them. Kane's hand tightened on Sophie's back. Sophie, this is Marcus Delacroix. He runs the Syndicate's East Coast operations. Sophie's blood went cold. Syndicate. As in organized crime. As in Mafia. She forced a smile. Extended her hand. Pleasure. Marcus kissed her knuckles. His gaze lingered too long. The pleasure is mine. Kane always had excellent taste. Watch it, Kane said softly. Marcus laughed, released her hand. Possessive. I like it. He looked at Sophie. How'd he trap you, sweetheart? He didn't trap me, Sophie said before Kane could answer. I walked in willingly. Even better. Marcus grinned. She's got spine. Keep this one, Varelli. He walked away. Sophie's hands were shaking. She curled them into fists. Breathe, Kane said quietly. You brought me into this. Her voice was raw. You brought me into your world without warning. You were already in it the second you were framed. His gaze stayed forward. At least now you have protection. From what? From them. He nodded toward the crowd. Half the people here would use you to get to me if they could. The other half would destroy you just to watch me react. Sophie's stomach turned. Then why bring me? Because hiding you makes you a target. Claiming you makes you untouchable. The logic was terrifying and sound. Sophie hated that it made sense. They moved through the crowd, Kane introducing her, his hand never leaving her back. She smiled, spoke when spoken to, played the role, and hated every second. Until she saw him. Felix. Across the room, talking to a woman Sophie didn't recognize, her heart stopped. Kane, I see him. What is he doing here? Testing boundaries. Kane's voice went cold. Stay here. Don't! But he was already moving. Sophie watched, helpless, as Kane crossed the room. Felix looked up, saw him, and smiled. They spoke. Too far away for Sophie to hear. But she saw Felix's expression shift. From confident to uncertain, to something close to fear. Kane leaned in, said something. Felix went pale. Then Kane turned and walked back. We're leaving, he said. What did you say to him? Nothing he didn't need to hear. Kane's hand found her back again, guided her toward the exit. Let's go. Outside, the night air was cold. Sophie's breath misted. Tell me, she said. Kane stopped beside the car, looked at her. I told him if he came near you again, I'd make sure he disappeared in a way that left questions. Sophie's throat closed. You threatened him. Yes. You can't just... I can. Kane opened the car door. And I will. Every time. Get in. Sophie didn't move. This has to stop. It stops when you're safe. I'm not yours to protect. Kane stepped close. His hand came up, cupped her jaw, forced her to meet his eyes. You are, he said quietly, whether you signed that contract or not, whether you want to be or not. You've been mine since the day we met, Sophie, and I'm done pretending otherwise. Then he kissed her. Not gently, not asking, claiming. Sophie's world tilted. Her hands came up to push him away, to pull him closer. She didn't know. But then his arm wrapped around her waist, hauled her against him, and every thought shattered. 10 years. 10 years of trying to forget this. The way he tasted. The way he felt. The way he kissed like he was taking something that already belonged to him. When he pulled back, Sophie couldn't breathe. Get in the car, Kane said. His voice was rough. Before I do something we'll both regret. Sophie got in. The ride back was silent, but her lips still burned, and deep down, beneath the fear, the anger, the confusion, she knew she was in serious trouble, because Kane Varelli didn't just want to protect her, he wanted to own her. And the worst part? Part of her wanted to let him. The penthouse was too quiet when they got back. Sophie stepped out of the elevator first, heels clicking against marble, and didn't wait for Kane. She walked straight to her room, hand already reaching for the door handle. Sophie? She stopped. Didn't turn around. We need to talk about what happened. No, we don't. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. You made your point. I'm supposed to be yours. Message received. That's not what that was. Now she turned. Then what was it? Kane stood in the middle of the living room, jacket gone, tie loosened. He looked exhausted, human. It made everything worse. A mistake, he said. The word landed like a slap. Sophie's throat tightened. Good. Then we agree. She went into her room and closed the door, leaned against it. Her hands were shaking. Her lips still tingled. She could still feel the pressure of his arm around her waist, the way he'd pulled her against him like she weighed nothing, like she belonged there. She touched her mouth, dropped her hand. This was temporary. 3 months. She had to remember that. Except Kane wasn't acting temporary, and neither was her body's response to him. Sophie stripped off the dress, the diamonds, the expensive armor Isabel had built around her. She stood in front of the mirror in just her underwear and studied herself. The bruise on her wrist had faded to yellow. Felix's last gift before she left. She told herself she was done being owned by men who thought they had a right to her. But here she was, in Kane Varelli's penthouse, wearing his clothes, playing his game, letting him kiss her like he'd been waiting 10 years to do it. Sophie pulled on sleep clothes, crawled into the too-perfect bed, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Morning came with raised voices. Sophie woke to the sound of Kane arguing with someone in the living room. She checked her phone, 6:15. She pulled on a robe and crept to the door, pressed her ear against it. Don't care what it costs. Kane's voice, cold, controlled. I want everything on Felix Grant. Bank records, phone logs, travel history. If he's got a parking ticket from 15 years ago, I want to know about it. A pause. Because he's still breathing, and that's a problem I intend to solve. Sophie's stomach dropped. She opened the door. Kane stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. He was still in yesterday's clothes, hadn't slept. He turned, saw her. I'll call you back. He ended the call. You're up early. So are you. Sophie crossed her arms. Are you having my husband killed? Ex-husband. We're separated, not divorced. That's a technicality I'm working on. Kane pocketed his phone. And no, I'm not having him killed. Yet. That's not funny. It's not meant to be. He moved to the kitchen, started making coffee. Felix Grant filed a restraining order against me yesterday. Sophie blinked. What? Claims I threatened him at the gala. Says he fears for his safety. Kane poured 2 cups. Set one in front of her. It's strategy. He's building a case. For what? To get you back. Sophie's hands went numb. That's insane. I left him. I filed separation papers, which he never signed. Kane's gaze locked on hers. Legally, you're still married, which means he has rights, claims, access. No. The word came out sharp. I'm not going back to him. I know. Then why are you telling me this? Kane was quiet for a moment. Because Felix Grant isn't going to stop. He's going to escalate. And when he does, I need you to trust me to handle it. Handle it how? However necessary. Sophie's pulse spiked. I don't want him dead, Kane. I didn't say I'd kill him. You didn't say you wouldn't. Kane's jaw tightened. Would you care if I did? The question hung between them. Sophie wanted to say yes, wanted to claim moral high ground, but when she opened her mouth, nothing came out. Because the truth was complicated. Felix had hurt her, controlled her, made her feel small and worthless and afraid. And part of her, the part she didn't want to examine too closely, wouldn't mourn if he disappeared. I don't know, she said finally. Kane's expression shifted. Something like approval flickered in his eyes. Good, he said. Honesty's a start. He drained his coffee and walked toward the hall. Get dressed. We're going out. Where? Somewhere you'll hate. He paused at the door. Wear the red dress Isabel left. And Sophie? She looked up. Don't argue. You won't win. Then he was gone. The red dress was obscene. Not obviously, nothing cheap or trashy, but it clung in ways that made Sophie feel exposed. The neckline dipped low. The slit ran high. When she moved, the fabric shifted like water. She looked like sex wrapped in silk, which was probably the point. Isabel had left heels to match, stilettos that added 4 inches and made her legs look endless. Sophie stared at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. Kane knocked once. Ready? She opened the door. He went still. His gaze traveled down. Back up. Lingered. Christ, he said quietly. Sophie's cheeks burned. If you're taking me somewhere public in this, I'm going to kill you. Noted. But he didn't move. Just looked at her like he was memorizing every detail. Where are we going? Sophie asked again. Dinner? With who? People I need to impress. Kane's hand found the small of her back, guided her toward the elevator. You're the impression. The restaurant was the kind of place Sophie had only read about. Private, exclusive. The kind where reservations were made months in advance and the menu didn't list prices. Kane walked in like he owned it. Maybe he did. They were led to a private room in the back. Low lighting, expensive art, a table set for 4. Sophie's stomach tightened. Who else is coming? Business associates. That's not an answer. Before Kane could respond, the door opened. 2 people entered. The man was tall, silver-haired, handsome in the way powerful men often were. Late 50s, tailored suit, cold eyes. The woman beside him was younger. Early 30s, stunning. Dark hair, sharp features, a dress that probably cost more than Sophie's old car. She looked at Kane like she already owned him. Sophie's chest tightened. Kane? The woman's voice was smooth, cultured. It's been too long. Renata. Kane's tone gave nothing away. Victor, thank you for meeting me. Victor, the older man, smiled. You said it was important. It is. Kane's hand tightened on Sophie's back. This is Sophie Mercer. Sophie, Victor Voss, and his daughter, Renata. Renata's gaze slid to Sophie, assessed, dismissed. Charmed, she said without warmth. They sat. Sophie ended up across from Renata, which felt deliberate. Kane ordered wine, made small talk, discussed business. Sophie didn't understand shipping contracts, territory disputes, payments owed. She stayed quiet, sipped water, watched. Renata watched back. So, Renata said eventually, cutting across Kane's conversation with Victor. How did you 2 meet? Sophie opened her mouth. Kane answered first. University, 10 years ago. And you've been together since? No. Kane's gaze didn't shift. We lost touch. Recently reconnected. How romantic. Renata's smile was sharp. Though I'm surprised. I didn't think you did relationships, Kane. I don't, usually. So what makes her different? The air went tight. Sophie's pulse hammered. She waited for Kane to deflect, to give some business answer. Instead, he looked at her. Everything, he said. Renata's expression froze. Victor cleared his throat. Well, that's quite an endorsement. It's the truth. Kane turned back to him. Which brings me to why we're here. I'm listening. The expansion into the European market. I'm pulling out. Silence. Victor's smile faded. Excuse me? I'm withdrawing my investment, effective immediately. Kane, Renata leaned forward. We've been planning this for 2 years. You can't just... I can. And I am. His voice was flat. Final. I'll honor existing contracts, but no new deals. Victor's jaw tightened. May I ask why? Personal reasons. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. The room went cold. Renata's gaze slid to Sophie. This is about her, isn't it? Sophie's breath caught. Kane's hand found hers under the table, squeezed. This is about priorities, he said. Mine have shifted. To what? Renata's voice went sharp. Playing house with some... Careful. The word was soft, lethal. Renata's mouth snapped shut. Victor stood. I think we're done here. We are. Kane didn't rise. I'll have my lawyers contact you tomorrow. Victor and Renata left without another word. The door closed. Sophie exhaled. Her hands were shaking. What the hell was that? She asked. Kane released her hand, drained his wine. A message. To who? Everyone. He looked at her. I just walked away from a $50 million deal because of you. By tomorrow, every person in my world will know it. Sophie's stomach dropped. Why would you do that? Because Renata Voss has been circling me for 3 years, and I needed her to understand you're not temporary. But I am. She doesn't know that. Kane, and neither does anyone else who might think you're leverage. His gaze held hers. You're not a weakness, Sophie. You're a declaration. Sophie couldn't breathe. Of what? That I'm done playing by their rules. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. Kane checked it. His expression went dark. What? Sophie asked. Felix just posted bail. Her blood went cold. Bail for what? Embezzlement charges. Apparently the evidence I released yesterday was enough for an arrest. Kane stood. He's out. As of 20 minutes ago. Where is he? Unknown. Sophie's hands went numb. He's going to come after me. Yes. So what do we do? Kane pulled out his phone, made a call. I'm moving up the timeline. I need security doubled at the penthouse, and I want eyes on Felix Grant. If he moves, I want to know about it. He hung up, looked at Sophie. We go home, you stay inside, and you don't go anywhere without me. For how long? Until I've dealt with him. Kane, this isn't negotiable, Sophie. His voice went hard. Felix Grant is unstable, cornered, and angry. That makes him dangerous, so you stay put. Understood? Sophie's jaw tightened. Fine. Good. He offered his hand. Let's go. The ride home was tense. Sophie stared out the window, watching the city blur past. Her mind raced. Felix was out. Free. Probably furious. And Kane had just painted a target on both of them. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Do what? Walk away from that deal. Make a scene. Kane was quiet for a moment. Yes, I did. Why? Because Renata needed to understand you're not negotiable. Sophie looked at him. What's she to you? Nothing? That's not an answer. Kane's jaw tightened. We were engaged, briefly, 3 years ago. Sophie's heart stopped. What? Business arrangement. Our families wanted the alliance. He didn't look at her. I ended it. Why? Because I don't do things I don't want to do. And you didn't want her? No. Sophie's throat tightened. Does she know that? She does now. They pulled up to the building. Kane helped her out of the car, hand at her back, and guided her inside. The elevator ride was silent. When they reached the penthouse, Sophie walked straight to her room. Sophie? She stopped, didn't turn. Thank you, Kane said. For tonight. I didn't do anything. You sat there and let me use you as a weapon. That's something. Sophie's hands fisted. Is that all I am to you? A tool? No. Then what am I? Silence. Then, I'm still figuring that out. Sophie went to her room and closed the door. She woke to screaming. Not real screaming, dream screaming. Her own voice trapped in her throat as Felix's hands closed around her neck. Sophie jolted upright, gasping. The room was dark, silent, just a nightmare. She pressed her hands to her face. Her heart was racing, sweat soaked through her shirt. A knock at the door. Sophie? Kane's voice. She didn't answer. The door opened anyway. He stood backlit by the hall light, wearing sweatpants and nothing else. His hair was messed. He looked half asleep. I heard you, he said. I'm fine. You're not. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. Kane crossed to the bed, sat on the edge, close enough to touch, but didn't. How long? He asked quietly. How long what? How long did he hurt you? Sophie's throat closed. Kane, tell me. She looked away. 6 months. Maybe longer. I don't know. It started small, controlling what I wore, who I talked to. Then it got worse. The bruise on your wrist. That was the last time. I left the next day. Kane was silent for a long moment. Then, I'm going to kill him. The words were calm, matter of fact. Sophie's head snapped up. No. Yes. Kane, you can't just watch me. I don't want that on my conscience. It won't be. He looked at her. It'll be on mine, where it belongs. Sophie's chest tightened. Why? Because he put his hands on you. Because he made you afraid. Because when I look at you, I still see that fear in your eyes. His voice went rough. And I can't stand it. The air between them went electric. Sophie's hands were shaking. You don't get to decide this. I already have. Kane, he stood. Get some sleep. Where are you going? To make a call. Don't! But he was already gone. Sophie sat in the dark, heart pounding, and knew she'd just lost whatever fragile control she had left. Dead. Morning brought news. Felix Grant was dead. Sophie woke to find Kane watching the news in the living room. She saw the headline crawl across the bottom of the screen. Businessman found dead in apparent suicide. Her legs gave out. Kane caught her before she hit the floor, guided her to the couch. Breathe, he said. Sophie couldn't. Her vision tunneled. Her ears rang. I didn't... Kane's voice was tight. Sophie, I didn't do this. She looked at him. You called someone last night. To put surveillance on him. That's all. His hands framed her face, forced her to focus. I swear to you, I didn't touch him. Then who did? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. The next hours were a blur. Police came to the penthouse, asked questions. Kane answered with the kind of calm that came from experience. Yes, he knew Felix Grant. Business acquaintance, hadn't seen him recently. No, Sophie hadn't been in contact with her estranged husband. Where were they last night? Dinner, then home. Security footage would confirm. The police left. Sophie sat on the couch, numb, while Kane made calls. Don't care what it costs. I want to know who got to him first. She stopped listening. Felix was dead. Part of her felt relief. The sick, shameful kind she'd never admit out loud. The other part felt horror. Because if Kane didn't kill him, who did? The answer came 3 days later. Sophie was alone in the penthouse. Kane had left for a meeting he wouldn't explain when someone knocked. She checked the security screen. A woman stood in the hallway. Elegant, familiar. Renata Voss. Sophie's stomach dropped. She opened the door. What do you want? To talk. Renata's smile was cold. May I come in? Every instinct screamed no. Sophie stepped aside. Renata entered like she owned the place, walked to the windows, studied the view. Nice, she said. Cain always did have excellent taste. What do you want? Sophie repeated. Renata turned. To offer my condolences. About your husband. Sophie's blood went cold. How did you know about Felix? Renata laughed. Please, everyone knows. It's all over the news. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Renata moved closer. You're wondering how he died. Who killed him? Whether it was suicide or murder. Sophie's pulse spiked. Do you know? I might. Tell me. Renata studied her. What's it worth to you? What do you want? For you to leave. The words landed like a fist. Sophie's throat tightened. What? Leave Cain. Walk away. Disappear. Renata's voice was calm, reasonable. Do that, and I'll tell you everything. Why would I do that? Because you're not stupid, Sophie. You know this. She gestured around the penthouse. Isn't real. It's a transaction. 3 months, wasn't it? Sophie's breath caught. Renata's smile sharpened. Yes, I know about the contract. I know you were framed. I know Cain offered you a way out in exchange for playing his lover. She stepped closer. What you don't know is why. He told me why. He told you what he wanted you to believe. Renata's gaze went cold. The truth is more complicated. Then tell me. Leave first. No. Renata sighed. Fine. Then let me ask you something. Do you know why you were framed? Sophie's stomach dropped. What? The fraud. The 17 transactions. Your signature. Renata's voice was soft, poisonous. It wasn't random, Sophie. Someone wanted you destroyed, publicly, completely. Who? Me. The room tilted. Sophie's hands went numb. What? I built it. Renata's smile was triumphant. Every transaction, every piece of evidence. I spent 6 months designing your downfall. Why? Because Cain couldn't let you go. Even after 10 years, even after you disappeared. Renata's voice went hard. He kept looking for you, asking about you, comparing every woman he met to you. Sophie couldn't breathe. So I removed you, Renata continued. I made sure you'd be so damaged, so ruined, that even Cain couldn't save you, and it worked. Until he bought the company. Yes. Renata's jaw tightened. I didn't expect that. Didn't expect him to offer you a contract, to bring you into his home. Her gaze went sharp. But it doesn't matter, because eventually you'll leave. The 3 months will end, and he'll come back to me. Sophie's vision swam. You're insane. I'm strategic. Renata moved to the door. And I'm patient. So enjoy your time here, Sophie, because it's already running out. She left. Sophie stood frozen in the middle of the living room, Renata's words echoing. I built it, the fraud, the frame job, all of it. Renata Voss had destroyed her life. And Cain, had he known? When Cain came home that night, Sophie was waiting. She stood by the window, arms crossed, fury burning through her veins. He took one look at her face and stopped. What happened? Renata was here. His expression went dark. What? She came to the penthouse, told me everything. Sophie's voice shook. She's the one who framed me. She admitted it. Cain went very still. Did you know? Sophie asked. No. Don't lie to me. I'm not lying. He moved toward her. I suspected someone with resources. Someone who wanted you gone. But I didn't know it was her. She said she did it because of you, because you couldn't let me go. Cain's jaw tightened. Sophie, is that true? Have you been looking for me for 10 years? Silence. Then, yes. The admission broke something in her. Why? Her voice cracked. Why didn't you just find me yourself? Why wait until now? Cain's hands fisted. Because I thought you left on purpose. I thought you wanted to disappear. I did leave on purpose. Because my father paid you to. Sophie froze. What? Cain's expression was raw, devastated. 10 years ago, when you vanished, my father gave you money, a lot of it, and you took it and left without a word. Sophie's mind reeled. That's not... He told me himself. Showed me the bank records. Your signature on the receipt. Kane's voice went rough. So I let you go, because I thought that's what you wanted. Kane, I never took money from your father. Then how did your signature end up on... I don't know. Sophie's chest was heaving. But I didn't take anything. I left because... She broke off. Couldn't finish. Because why? Because your father told me you were engaged. To someone appropriate. Someone from your world. The words came out bitter. He said I was a distraction, that I'd ruin your life if I stayed. Kane went white. He lied, he said quietly. I know that now. I was never engaged, never wanted anyone but you. Then why didn't you fight for me? Sophie's voice broke. Why didn't you come after me when I left? Because I thought you wanted the money more than you wanted me. The truth hung between them. Ugly, painful. They'd both been manipulated, both lied to, both lost 10 years because of someone else's agenda. Sophie's hands were shaking. Renata killed Felix, didn't she? Kane nodded slowly. I think so. Why? To frame me. To drive a wedge between us. His gaze held hers. To make you afraid of me. It worked. I know. Sophie turned away, pressed her forehead against the glass. I can't do this. Sophie, I can't keep wondering who's lying, who's using me, who's going to destroy my life next. Her voice shook. I'm done. Don't. The contract said 3 months. I'll finish it. But after that, no. Kane's hand closed around her arm, spun her around. You don't get to walk away from this. From me. I'm not yours to keep. Yes, you are. His grip tightened. Not painful, desperate. You've been mine since the day we met, Sophie, and I'll be damned if I lose you again. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Then I'm making mine. She tried to pull away. Kane pulled her closer. His hands framed her face, forced her to look at him. I love you, he said. Sophie's breath stopped. I've loved you for 10 years. Through your absence. Through the lies. Through every moment I thought you'd chosen money over me. His voice was raw, broken. And I'll love you when you walk away. But I need you to know that's what you're walking away from. Tears burned Sophie's eyes. Kane, don't answer now, just... He pressed his forehead to hers. Just don't decide yet. Sophie's hands came up, gripped his wrists. She should push him away, should run, should protect herself. Instead, she held on. I need time, she whispered. I'll give you whatever you need. What if what I need is space? Then I'll give you space. His thumbs brushed her cheeks. But I'm not giving up on us. There is no us. There's always been us. Before she could argue, he kissed her. Soft this time, gentle. Like she was something precious he'd already broken once and couldn't bear to break again. Sophie's resistance crumbled. She kissed him back, poured 10 years of longing and loss and fury into it, let herself feel everything she'd been fighting. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I hate you, Sophie whispered. I know. You ruined me. I know that too. And I still... She couldn't finish. I know, Kane said again. His voice was soft, wrecked. I know, Sophie, and I'm sorry. She believed him. That was the worst part. Well, the next morning, Sophie woke to an empty penthouse. Kane was gone. No note. No explanation. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Athens. 3 days. Come alone. We need to talk about what happens next. See. Sophie stared at the message. Athens. 3 days. Alone. Every rational part of her brain screamed trap, but she'd stopped listening to rational 3 weeks ago. She booked the flight. Athens was heat and chaos, and music that pulsed through ancient streets. Sophie arrived exhausted, jet-lagged, wearing sunglasses that hid the fact that she hadn't slept in 2 days. Kane had sent coordinates, a hotel, room number. She took a cab, climbed the stairs, knocked. He opened the door. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Kane stepped aside. Come in. The room was simple, clean. A window overlooked the Acropolis. Why here? Sophie asked. Because I needed distance from everything else. Kane moved to the window. And because I wanted to give you a choice. What choice? Stay or go? He turned. No contract, no leverage. Just you and me and the truth. Sophie's throat tightened. What truth? That I meant what I said. I love you. I've always loved you. His voice was steady, certain. But I won't keep you trapped. So if you want to leave, if you want your life back, I'll let you go. Clean. Final. Just like that. Just like that. Sophie studied him, looking for the lie, the angle. She didn't find one. And if I stay? Kane's expression shifted. Then we stop pretending this is temporary. Her heart hammered. What does that mean? It means I'm all in. No more contracts, no more games, just us. Kane, I know it's fast, I know it's insane, but I've already lost you once. He crossed to her, stopped close. I won't survive it again. Sophie couldn't breathe. This was the moment. Stay or go. Freedom or him. She opened her mouth to answer, and her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A news alert. Renata Voss arrested in connection with corporate fraud and murder. Sophie's blood went cold. She looked up at Kane. What did you do? What I should have done weeks ago. His expression was hard. I gave the evidence to the authorities. Everything Renata confessed. Everything she built. How, The penthouse is wired, every room, including the living room where she confessed to you. His gaze didn't waver. I have it all on tape. Sophie's hands went numb. You recorded her. Yes. Did you know she was coming? I suspected. So you used me as bait. Kane's jaw tightened. I protected you. By putting me in danger, by ending the threat, his voice went hard. Renata won't hurt you again. She won't hurt anyone. She's done. Sophie stared at him, at the man who just destroyed his ex-fiancée to keep her safe. You should have told me, she said. You're right. I should have. Kane stepped closer. But I couldn't risk her knowing, couldn't risk her running before I had everything I needed. So you sacrificed my trust instead. Yes. The honesty of it stole her breath. That's not a relationship, Kane. That's control. I know. Then why? Because keeping you alive matters more to me than keeping you happy. His hands fisted. I'll apologize. I'll grovel. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me. But I won't apologize for doing whatever it takes to protect you. Sophie's chest tightened. She should leave, should walk away from this man who made decisions for her, who manipulated situations, who loved her with the kind of intensity that burned everything else to ash. Instead, she stepped forward, grabbed his shirt, pulled him down to her, and kissed him like the world was ending. Kane's arms came around her, crushed her against him. He kissed her back with 10 years of desperation and need. When they finally broke apart, Sophie was breathing hard. I'm still furious with you, she said. I know. And I don't forgive you. I don't deserve it. But I'm not leaving. Kane's expression cracked. Sophie, I'm not leaving, she repeated. Because you're right. This thing between us, it's not temporary. It's never been temporary. What are we doing? I don't know. She laughed. It came out broken. But I'm tired of fighting it. Kane's forehead dropped to hers. I'll do better, I swear. You'd better. He kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise. When they finally pulled apart, night had fallen outside. Sophie looked out at the city, ancient and beautiful and utterly foreign. What happens now? She asked. We figure it out. Kane's arm stayed around her waist. Together. And Renata? Prison. For a long time. What about your father? Kane's expression went cold. He's next. Sophie looked up at him. Kane? He lied to both of us. Stole 10 years from us. His voice was flat. That has consequences. What are you going to do? Cut him out. Completely. Financially, professionally, permanently. That's your father. He stopped being my father the day he paid you to leave. The finality of it was terrifying and absolute. Sophie leaned into him. I don't know if I can do this. Your world, the danger, the violence. Then we'll build a new one. Kane's hand came up, cupped her face. Whatever you need. I need honesty. You'll have it, and I need you to stop making decisions for me. I'll try. Trying isn't good enough. Then I'll succeed. He smiled, small, real. You don't leave me much choice. Sophie's chest ached. This man, this impossible, dangerous, devoted man. She was so screwed, but for the first time in 10 years, she didn't want to be anywhere else. Oh, they stayed in Athens for 3 days, wandering ancient ruins, eating at restaurants where neither of them spoke the language, falling into bed exhausted and waking tangled together. No threats, no contracts, no games. Just them. On the third night, Kane took her to a club. The music was loud. The crowd was thick. Bodies pressed together in the heat. Sophie let herself disappear into it, into the rhythm, into the feeling of being anonymous again. She was dancing when she felt someone behind her. Not Kane, someone else. She turned. A man. Handsome. Smiling. He said something in Greek she didn't understand. Sophie smiled back, started to respond, and felt the air change. She looked up. Kane stood 10 feet away, not moving, not speaking, but everything about him had gone lethal. The man behind Sophie saw him, paled, disappeared into the crowd. Sophie's pulse spiked. Kane crossed to her, slow, deliberate. The crowd parted. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat rolling off him. You signed a contract, he said quietly, dangerously. You agreed to be mine. Sophie's breath caught. The contract's void. You said, I said I'd let you choose. You chose to stay. His hand came up, fisted in her hair, tilted her head back. That makes you mine, Sophie, in every way that matters. Her heart was hammering. Kane? He kissed her, hard, possessive, claiming, in front of everyone. Sophie should have been embarrassed, should have pushed him away. Instead, she kissed him back. Let him devour her in the middle of a crowded club like they were the only two people in the world. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Don't do that again, Kane said. Do what? Smile at other men like you're available. I wasn't. You were. His grip tightened, and I can't handle it. Sophie stared at him, at the possessiveness in his eyes, the jealousy, the need. It should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel alive. Take me back to the hotel, she said. Kane's expression went dark. Why? Because if you don't, I'm going to do something we'll both regret in public. His mouth curved. Like what? Sophie leaned in, whispered in his ear exactly what. Kane went very still. Then he grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the exit. They barely made it back to the hotel room before they were tearing at each other's clothes. This wasn't gentle, wasn't careful. This was 10 years of wanting, of denial, of fighting what they both knew was inevitable. When it was over, Sophie lay tangled in sheets, Kane's arm heavy across her waist, and felt something inside her shift. This was real, terrifying and complicated and probably doomed, but real. I love you, she whispered. Kane's arm tightened. Say it again. I love you. He rolled over, looked down at her with an expression so raw it hurt to see. I'm never letting you go, he said. I know. I mean it, Sophie. Never. I know, she said again, and she meant it, because the truth was, she didn't want him to. Not anymore. They flew back 2 days later. The penthouse felt different when they returned, less like a prison, more like home. Sophie unpacked while Kane made calls, business, always business. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Enjoy it while it lasts, you haven't won yet. R. Sophie's blood went cold. Renato was supposed to be in custody. She showed Kane the message. His expression went murderous. She posted bail, he said after making a call, 2 hours ago. How is that possible? Her family's powerful, connected. Kane's jaw tightened. But it doesn't matter. She's being monitored. She can't touch you. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He pulled her close. Because I'm not letting you out of my sight until she's locked up permanently. Sophie wanted to argue, but the fear in her chest wouldn't let her. because Renata Voss had already proven she'd do anything to win, even murder. And Sophie had just become the only thing standing between Renata and Kane, which made her a target again. "We need to end this," Sophie said. "We will." "How?" Kane's expression went cold. "By giving her exactly what she wants." Sophie's stomach dropped. "Which is?" "A confrontation." His gaze locked on hers. "One that ends with her destroying herself." "That's too dangerous." "It's the only way." "Kane, trust me," he said. "Please." Sophie looked at him, at the man who'd lied to her, used her, protected her, loved her, and made her choice. "Okay," she whispered. "I trust you." Kane's expression cracked. Then he kissed her like she'd just given him the world. And maybe she had, because trust, real trust, was the one thing they'd never had before. Now they did. And Sophie just hoped it would be enough. The plan was simple. Too simple, Sophie thought, as she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the sink. Kane's voice drifted from the living room, low, controlled, giving orders to people whose names she didn't know. She'd agreed to this. Agreed to be bait. Again. Sophie closed her eyes, breathed. When she opened them, Kane stood in the doorway. "You don't have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do." "Sophie, she won't stop Kane, not until one of us is dead." Sophie turned, met his gaze. "So let's give her what she wants." Kane's jaw tightened. "I don't like it." "You don't have to like it. You just have to trust me." Something flickered in his expression, pride maybe, or fear. He crossed to her, pulled her against him. His heart hammered beneath her cheek. "If anything goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, then you'll handle it." Sophie pulled back, looked up at him. "That's what you do, right? Handle things." Kane's hand came up, cupped her face. "I love you." "I know." "Say it back." Sophie's throat tightened. "I love you." He kissed her, desperate, possessive, like he thought it might be the last time. Bratiet. The meeting was set for midnight. An abandoned warehouse on the waterfront, the kind of location that screamed trap but was too perfect to refuse. Renata had sent the address herself. No pretense, no games, just coordinates and a message. "Come alone, or I release everything." Everything being the fabricated evidence that would destroy what was left of Sophie's reputation. Doctored photos, fake financial records, a narrative that painted Sophie as the architect of her own downfall, a manipulator who'd seduced Kane for his money and power. It was brilliant, really, devastating, and entirely believable. Sophie sat in the back of Kane's car, watching the city blur past. He'd insisted on driving her himself. His security team would follow at a distance, invisible until needed. "She's going to have people there," Kane said. His hands were tight on the wheel. "Her family's private security. Maybe worse. I know. And she's not going to just talk. She wants blood." "I know that too." Kane glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Then why are you so calm?" Sophie looked down at her hands. They weren't shaking anymore. "Because I'm done being afraid," she said quietly. "I've spent 10 years running from things. From you, from myself, from the life I thought I deserved." She looked up, met his eyes in the mirror. "I'm not running anymore." Kane pulled over. The car jerked to a stop. He turned around. "Sophie, I mean it." She leaned forward. "Whatever happens tonight, whether this works or it doesn't, I'm not backing down. Not from her. Not from this," she paused. "Not from us." Kane's expression cracked. Then he was climbing into the back seat, pulling her onto his lap, kissing her like the world was ending. Maybe it was. "If I lose you," his voice was rough against her throat. "You won't. You can't promise that. Watch me." He pulled back, looked at her with an expression so raw it hurt. "You're the bravest person I've ever met," he said. Sophie laughed. It came out broken. "I'm terrified." "I know, that's what makes you brave." He kissed her once more. Soft, final. Then he climbed back into the driver's seat and drove them toward whatever came next. The warehouse loomed against the night sky like a graveyard for forgotten things. Broken windows, rusted metal, the smell of salt and decay. Sophie stepped out of the car. The wind off the water cut through her jacket. Kane stood beside her, scanning the building. His hand rested at the small of her back. "Last chance," he said. "We can turn around, find another way." "There is no other way." "There's always another way." Sophie looked up at him. "Not one that ends with us both alive and free." Kane's jaw worked. "I should go in with you." "She said alone." "I don't care what she said." "Kane," Sophie grabbed his hand, squeezed. "If you come in, she'll know we're playing her. She'll run and we'll never get another chance." He knew she was right. Hated it, but knew it. 5 minutes, he said. "If you're not out in 5 minutes, I'm coming in." "Make it 10. Sophie, 10 minutes, Kane. I need time to get her talking, to get the confession on record." She touched the small microphone hidden in her necklace. Kane's people had wired her before they left. "Trust me." Kane pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "I'll be right outside." "I know." She pulled away before she could change her mind, walked toward the warehouse, didn't look back. Inside the warehouse was darker than she expected. Sophie's footsteps echoed against concrete. Her breath misted in the cold air. "Hello?" Her voice bounced off empty walls. Then, lights. Blinding. Industrial. They clicked on one by one, illuminating the cavernous space, and in the center, Renata Voss. She stood alone. No security, no backup visible. Just her in a white coat that made her look like a ghost. "You came," Renata said. Her voice was calm, pleasant. "I wasn't sure you would." Sophie stopped 20 feet away. "You didn't give me much choice." "There's always a choice, Sophie. You just made the wrong one." "By coming here?" "By staying with Kane." Renata moved closer. Her heels clicked against concrete. "I gave you an out. Told you to leave. You refused." "Because I love him." Renata's expression twisted. "You don't even know him." "I know enough." "Do you?" Renata laughed, cold, sharp. "Do you know why his father paid you to leave 10 years ago?" Sophie's stomach tightened. "To protect Kane's reputation." "No." Renata stopped 5 feet away. "To protect you." The words didn't make sense. "What?" "Kane's father didn't pay you to leave because you were beneath his son." Renata's smile was cruel. "He paid you to leave because Kane was dangerous. Even then." Sophie's pulse spiked. "That's a lie." "Is it?" Renata tilted her head. "Did Kane ever tell you what happened to his last girlfriend? Before you?" Sophie's throat went dry. "There was no one before me?" "Wrong." Renata pulled out her phone, scrolled, turned the screen toward Sophie. A photo. A woman. Young, beautiful, dark hair, wide smile, dead eyes. Sophie's vision swam. "Who is that?" "Melissa Chen, Kane's girlfriend when he was 19. Renata's voice was soft, poisonous. "She died in a car accident, single vehicle collision, no witnesses." "Accidents happen, not to people who threatened to leave Kane Varelli." Renata pocketed her phone. "Melissa tried to break up with him, told him she'd met someone else. 3 days later, her brakes failed on a mountain road." Sophie's hands went numb. "You're lying." "Am I?" Renata stepped closer. "Ask yourself this. Why would Kane's father pay you to disappear instead of just letting his son handle it? Why would he go to such lengths to get you away from Kane? Because he wanted to control. Because he was afraid of what Kane would do if you left on your own." Renata's gaze locked on hers. "He was protecting you, Sophie, from his own son." Sophie's mind reeled. No, it wasn't true. Couldn't be true. Kane wouldn't... It wouldn't what? Kill for you? Renata laughed. "He already has. Felix is dead, Sophie, and I didn't kill him." The floor dropped out. "What?" "I framed you. I ruined your life, but I didn't touch your husband." Renata's smile sharpened. "Kane did that himself." Sophie couldn't breathe. "No." "He told you it was suicide, didn't he? Told you he didn't know who killed Felix?" Renata moved closer. "He lied. Kane gave the order the night you told him about the abuse. Felix was dead within 48 hours. Sophie's legs gave out. She hit the concrete, hard. Her vision tunneled. I don't believe you. Then ask him. Renata crouched beside her. Ask Kane what he did to Felix Grant. Ask him if he can look you in the eye and deny it. Sophie's hands were shaking. Her chest was heaving. This wasn't real, couldn't be real, but somewhere deep inside, in the part of her that had always known Kane was dangerous, she believed it. Why are you telling me this? Sophie's voice cracked. Because you need to understand what you've gotten yourself into. Renata's expression softened, almost pitying. Kane Varelli doesn't love you, Sophie. He owns you, and he'll destroy anyone who tries to take you away from him. That's not... It is. Renata stood, and deep down, you know it. Sophie's vision blurred. Tears burned her eyes. She wanted to deny it, wanted to scream that Renata was lying, but she couldn't. Because too many things made sense now. The way Kane had appeared exactly when she needed saving. The way he'd known about the fraud before anyone else. The way Felix had died so conveniently. The way Kane looked at her. Not like a lover, like a possession. You're lying, Sophie whispered. But the words had no strength. Am I? Renata pulled out another phone, different from the first. Then explain this. She pressed play. Kane's voice filled the warehouse. I want Felix Grant eliminated, tonight. Make it look like suicide, no traces, no witnesses. A pause. I don't care what it costs, just get it done. The recording ended. Sophie's world shattered. That's... She couldn't finish, couldn't make her brain process what she'd just heard. That's Kane giving the order to kill your husband. Renata pocketed the phone. I recorded it from his office the night you told him about the abuse. Insurance, in case I needed it. Sophie's stomach heaved. She pressed her hand to her mouth. He lied to you, Renata said softly. About Felix. About his father. About everything. Why? Sophie's voice broke. Why are you doing this? Because you need to see him for what he is. Renata crouched again. Kane Varelli is a monster, Sophie. A beautiful, dangerous monster who destroys everything he touches. And if you stay with him, if you let him keep you, you'll be next. Sophie's chest was heaving. Tears streamed down her face. She wanted to argue, wanted to defend him, but the evidence was crushing, undeniable. What do you want from me? Sophie whispered. I want you to leave, tonight, right now. Renata's voice was urgent, sincere. I'll give you money, new identity, a way out that Kane can't trace. All you have to do is walk away. And if I don't? Then you'll end up like Melissa Chen. Renata's gaze was steady, dead in an accident that was anything but. Sophie's hands fisted against the concrete. Every instinct screamed, run. But something held her back, something that didn't add up. If Kane's so dangerous, Sophie said slowly, why are you still alive? Renata blinked. What? You framed me, ruined my life, killed Felix, or claim you didn't but still facilitated it. You've been circling Kane for years, trying to force him into marriage. Sophie pushed to her feet. Her legs shook but held. If Kane's the monster you say he is, if he kills anyone who threatens to take me away, why hasn't he killed you? Renata's expression flickered. Because I have insurance. Bullshit. Sophie's voice went hard. If you had real insurance, if you had proof he killed people, you'd have used it already. You'd have destroyed him. I'm trying to save you. No. Sophie stepped forward. You're trying to manipulate me, again. Because you can't control Kane, so you're trying to control me instead. Renata's mask cracked. You stupid girl! I'm not stupid. I'm just done believing your lies. Renata's hand moved, fast. She pulled a gun from her coat pocket, aimed it at Sophie's chest. Then you're going to die for him, Renata said. Her voice was cold now, empty. Just like Melissa. Sophie's breath stopped. The microphone around her neck was recording. Kane's team was listening, but they were outside, too far away. She was alone, with a woman who'd just admitted to murder. You killed Melissa, Sophie said quietly. Renata's smile was terrible. Of course I did. Kane's father paid me, said his son was becoming too attached, too obsessed, that the girl needed to disappear before Kane did something they couldn't cover up. So you staged an accident. I staged an accident. Kane's father paid me handsomely, and Kane never knew. Renata's finger moved to the trigger, just like he'll never know I killed you. He's right outside, and by the time he gets in here, you'll be dead. Another tragic accident, another woman who got too close to Kane Varelli and paid the price. Renata's voice went soft. He'll mourn you, probably for years, but he'll move on, and eventually, he'll come back to you? No? Renata's smile widened. He'll destroy himself, and I'll be there to pick up the pieces of his empire. Sophie's mind raced. The gun was aimed at her heart. Renata's finger was on the trigger. One shot, and it was over. She had seconds. You're wrong, Sophie said. About what? About Kane. Sophie forced herself to meet Renata's eyes. He's not a monster. He's just a man who's been hurt so many times he doesn't know how to trust anyone. And you... She laughed. It came out broken. You proved him right. How touching. Renata's finger tightened. Any last words? Yeah. Sophie smiled. You forgot about the microphone. Renata's expression froze. Then, the warehouse doors exploded inward. Kane's security team poured in, 6 men in tactical gear, weapons drawn, and behind them, Kane. His face was carved from ice. His eyes were murder. Renata spun, aimed the gun at him. Don't move! Kane didn't slow. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, grabbed Renata's wrist, twisted. The gun clattered to the floor. Renata screamed. Kane slammed her against a concrete pillar. His hand closed around her throat. You killed Melissa, he said quietly. Renata's eyes went wide. Kane, you killed her and let me think it was my fault. Your father paid me. I know. Kane's voice was soft, lethal. I heard everything. Sophie realized he'd been listening the whole time. Heard Renata's confession, heard the truth about Melissa, about his father, about everything. Kane, Sophie's voice cut through the warehouse. Don't. His hand tightened on Renata's throat. She tried to kill you. I know. She murdered an innocent woman. I know. Then why shouldn't I? Because I need you to let the law handle it. Sophie moved closer. I need you to prove you're not the monster she says you are. Kane's jaw worked. His hand trembled. Then, slowly, he released Renata. She collapsed to the floor, gasping. Kane's security moved in, zip-tied her hands, pulled her to her feet. Get her out of here, Kane said. His voice was flat, empty. They dragged Renata toward the exit. She looked back at Sophie. He'll ruin you, you'll see. Then she was gone. Sophie stood in the silence that followed, trembling. Kane turned to her. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Sophie walked forward, slapped him across the face. The sound echoed. Kane didn't flinch. I deserve that. You deserve worse. Sophie's voice shook. You lied to me about Felix, about everything. I know. You had him killed. Yes? The admission broke something in her. Why? The word came out as a sob. Why couldn't you just tell me the truth? Because you would have tried to stop me. Kane's voice was rough, and I couldn't let him live after what he did to you. That wasn't your decision to make. Yes, it was. His gaze locked on hers. The moment you became mine, everyone who hurt you became my problem to solve. I'm not yours. Not. Yes, you are. He stepped closer. You've been mine since the day we met, Sophie, and I'm done pretending that's not true. Sophie's chest heaved. You're a murderer. Yes. You killed Felix in cold blood. Yes. And you'd do it again. In a heartbeat. The honesty of it was devastating. Sophie pressed her hands to her face. I can't do this. Yes, you can. No. She dropped her hands, looked at him with tears streaming down her face. I can't love a man who kills people. Then you'll have to find a way. Kane's voice went soft. Because I'm not changing who I am. Not even for you. The words landed like a fist. Sophie stumbled back. Kane didn't follow. I love you, he said quietly. More than I've ever loved anything, but I won't lie about what I am. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. Then what are you? A monster who's trying very hard not to be. His expression was raw, honest. For you. Sophie's throat closed. She wanted to run, wanted to scream, wanted to hate him. But she couldn't, because underneath the horror and the betrayal, she understood. Cain Varelli had spent his entire life being used, manipulated, lied to. His own father had murdered his first love and let him carry the guilt. Renata had spent years trying to trap him. Everyone in his world wanted something from him, except Sophie. She'd never wanted his money, his power, his empire. She just wanted him. And he'd killed to keep her. It was sick, wrong, unforgivable. And she still loved him anyway. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I hate that you lied, that you killed Felix, that you're making me complicit in murder. I know. And I hate that I still love you. Cain's expression cracked. He crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. Sophie fought him for half a second, then collapsed against his chest. I can't do this, she sobbed. I can't be with someone who... Then leave. His voice was rough against her hair. Walk away. I'll let you go. Clean. Final. No contract. No leverage. You're lying. I'm not. He pulled back, cupped her face. If you want out, Sophie, I'll give it to you. But you have to decide right now. Stay or go. Sophie stared at him. At the man who'd killed for her, lied for her, destroyed his own humanity for her. The smart choice was leave. Run. Never look back. But Sophie had stopped making smart choices the day she signed his contract. I hate you, she said again. I know. And I'm going to make your life hell. I'm counting on it. She kissed him, desperate, furious, devastated. Cain kissed her back like she was oxygen and he was drowning. When they finally broke apart, Sophie was shaking. I need conditions, she said. Anything. No more lies, ever. I don't care how ugly the truth is. Done. And no more killing. Not for me. Not for anyone. Cain hesitated. Cain, I can't promise that. His voice was quiet, honest. If someone threatens you, if someone tries to hurt you, I won't hesitate. Then I need you to try. Sophie's hands fisted in his shirt. I need you to at least try to find another way first. I'll try. Swear it. I swear. Sophie searched his face, looking for the lie. Didn't find one. Okay, she whispered. Okay? I'm staying. She laughed. It came out broken. I'm insane, but I'm staying. Cain's arms tightened around her. Thank God. Don't thank anything yet. Sophie pulled back. Because we still have a lot to deal with. Your father, the police, Renata's confession. I'll handle it. We'll handle it. She looked up at him. Together. Something shifted in Cain's expression, softened. Together, he repeated. Then he kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise. Nkat. They left the warehouse hand in hand. Outside, the night air was cold and clean. Cain's security team was loading Renata into a van. She looked back at Sophie one last time. Her expression wasn't anger, it was pity, like she knew something Sophie didn't. Sophie's stomach tightened. What happens to her now? She asked. Police custody. Trial? Prison. Cain's voice was flat. She'll spend the rest of her life behind bars. And your father? Cain's jaw tightened. I'm handling him tomorrow. How? However necessary. Sophie's chest tightened. Cain, he murdered Melissa, paid Renata to do it, lied to me for 10 years. His voice went cold. He doesn't get to walk away from that. What are you going to do? Cut him off, financially, professionally, completely. That's not enough. Cain looked at her. What do you want me to do? I want you to let the police handle it. The police won't touch him. He's too powerful, too connected. Then we make sure they do. Sophie grabbed his hand. We give them the evidence, Renata's confession, the recording, everything. We let the system work. The system doesn't work for people like him. Then we make it work. She stepped closer. Please, Cain, if you want me to stay, if you want this to work, I need you to do this the right way. Cain stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. Okay? I'll give the evidence to the police. Let them build a case. His gaze locked on hers. But if they don't move, if he tries to hurt you, all bets are off. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Okay, Sophie said. They got into the car. The city passed in silence. Sophie leaned against Kane's shoulder, exhausted. What happens now? She asked. Now? Kane's arm tightened around her. We go home, get some sleep, and tomorrow, we start over. Yeah. He kissed the top of her head. We start over. Sophie closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, she felt something like peace. It wouldn't last. She knew that. There were still too many threats, too many secrets, too many bodies buried in Kane's past. But for tonight, for right now, she had him, and he had her, and that was enough. They made it back to the penthouse at 2 a.m. Sophie was asleep before her head hit the pillow. She dreamed of warehouses and gunshots and Renata's pitying smile, woke gasping. The room was dark, silent. Kane's arm was heavy around her waist. Sophie listened to him breathe, steady, even, safe. She closed her eyes again. This time, sleep didn't come. Because somewhere in the back of her mind, a voice whispered that she'd made a terrible mistake, that loving Kane Varelli would destroy her, that she should have run when she had the chance. But it was too late now. She'd chosen, and there was no going back. Morning came with pounding on the door. Sophie jolted awake. Kane was already up, pulling on clothes. What's happening? She asked. I don't know. Stay here. He left the bedroom. Sophie heard voices, low, urgent, then silence. She pulled on a robe, walked to the living room. Kane stood frozen in the middle of the room. His phone dangled from his hand. Kane? He didn't respond. Sophie crossed to him, touched his arm. What's wrong? He looked at her. His expression was devastated. My father's dead, he said quietly. Sophie's breath stopped. What? Heart attack. Last night. Kane's voice was flat, empty. He's gone. Sophie's mind reeled. Kane, I'm so sorry. Don't be. He set his phone down. He was a monster. The world's better without him. But he was still your father. He stopped being my father the day he murdered Melissa. The words were cold, final. But Sophie saw the truth underneath. Kane was hurting. Maybe didn't want to be, but was. She pulled him close. He resisted for a moment, then collapsed against her. I should feel something, he said roughly. Relief, grief, something. But I don't. I just feel empty, Sophie finished. Yeah. She held him tighter. That's okay. Is it? Yes. She pulled back, looked up at him. You're allowed to grieve the father you should have had, even if he never existed. Kane's expression cracked. Then he was kissing her, desperate, broken. Sophie kissed him back, let him pour his grief and rage into her. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. What do we do now? Sophie asked. Kane was quiet for a long moment. Then, we survive. Together? Together. He kissed her forehead. And Sophie tried to believe it would be that simple, but deep down, in the part of her that had learned to read Kane's silences, she knew it wouldn't be. Because the truth about his father's death was too convenient, too perfectly timed, too suspicious. And when she looked into Kane's eyes, she saw something that terrified her, not grief, not relief, guilt. That's 3 days later, the autopsy results came back. Heart attack, natural causes. No foul play suspected. Sophie stood in Kane's office, reading the report over his shoulder. This doesn't make sense, she said. Why not? Your father was what? 58? 59? In perfect health. Heart attacks happen. Not to men who have personal physicians and regular checkups. Kane's jaw tightened. What are you suggesting? Sophie's hands were shaking. Did you kill him? Silence. Kane set down the report, turned to face her. No, he said quietly. I don't believe you. I know. Sophie's chest tightened. Kane, I didn't kill him, Sophie. I swear. His gaze locked on hers. But I'm not sorry he's dead. That's not the same thing. It's close enough. Sophie stared at him, looking for the lie, the crack in his armor. She didn't find one, but she didn't find truth either. I need air, she said. Sophie? She walked out. The media descended like vultures. Crime boss dies suddenly. Empire in chaos. Cain Varelli inherits father's criminal network questions. Surround sudden death of Vittorio Varelli. Sophie watched the coverage from a coffee shop 3 blocks from the penthouse. She'd left without telling Cain, needed space to think, to breathe, to figure out if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. Her phone buzzed, a text from Cain. Where are you? She didn't answer. Another buzz. Sophie, answer me. She turned her phone off, ordered another coffee, sat by the window and watched the city move past. Normal people. Normal lives. She'd had that once, before Cain, before contracts and threats and falling in love with a man who solved problems with violence. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. She barely recognized herself. When had she become someone who could overlook murder, who could justify it, who could love the man who committed it? Sophie pressed her forehead against the cold glass. She didn't have an answer. When she finally went back to the penthouse, it was after dark. Cain stood by the window, silhouetted against the city lights. He didn't turn when she entered. I thought you left, he said quietly. I thought about it. Why didn't you? Sophie set her bag down. Because I love you, and I'm an idiot. Now he turned. His expression was raw, exhausted. I didn't kill him, he said again. I know. Do you? Sophie crossed to him. I want to. God, I want to. But Cain... Her voice broke. You have to understand. From where I'm standing, your father died at the exact moment he became a threat. That's not a coincidence. It was a heart attack that no one saw coming. She grabbed his hands. Tell me the truth, right now. Did you have him killed? Cain's jaw worked. No, he said finally. I didn't. Sophie searched his face, wanted desperately to believe him. But you're not sorry he's dead. No? His voice was flat. I'm not. Even though it means we'll never get justice for Melissa, never prove he was behind it? Renata confessed. That's proof enough. For you. But what about everyone else? What about Melissa's family? Cain pulled his hands free. They'll have to live with not knowing, like I did for 10 years. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Sophie. He turned back to the window. My father was a monster. He's dead. And I'm not going to waste energy mourning him or seeking justice he didn't deserve. Sophie's throat tightened. This was who Cain was. Cold, practical, ruthless. She'd known that. But knowing it and living with it were different things. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now I inherit his empire. Clean it up. Make it legitimate. Can you do that? I can try. And if you can't? Cain was quiet for a long moment. Then I'll burn it down and start over. The finality in his voice was terrifying. Sophie moved to stand beside him. They looked out at the city together. I'm scared, she said. Of what? Of losing myself in this. In you. In your world. Cain's hand found hers. Then don't. It's not that simple. It is. He turned to face her. You're stronger than you think, Sophie. You survived Renata, survived Felix, survived me. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. You can survive this too. Sophie wanted to believe him, wanted to think she could love Cain and stay herself. But the evidence suggested otherwise. 3 weeks ago, she'd been horrified by the thought of violence. Now she was justifying murder. What would she be justifying in 3 months? 3 years? I need you to promise me something, she said. Anything. If I start to change, if I start to become someone I don't recognize, you have to let me go. Cain's expression went dark. No. Cain, I'm not letting you go. Ever. His hand tightened on hers. You want to leave, you'll have to run, and I'll spend the rest of my life finding you. The words should have terrified her. Instead, they made her chest ache. You're impossible, she whispered. I know. And dangerous.
I know that too, and I love you anyway. Kane pulled her close. I know. He kissed her, soft, reverent, like she was something precious he didn't deserve. When they broke apart, Sophie was trembling. What are we going to do? She asked. We're going to survive. Kane's forehead rested against hers. Together. No matter what comes next. Sophie closed her eyes, tried to believe it, but somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered that survival wasn't enough.
That eventually she'd have to choose between the woman she used to be and the woman Kane was turning her into. And she didn't know which one would win. The funeral was 3 days later. Vittorio Varelli was buried in a cemetery that cost more per plot than most people made in a year. Black suits, black cars, black umbrellas against rain that felt too theatrical to be real. Sophie stood beside Kane and watched him bury his father without shedding a tear. His face was carved from ice. His posture was perfect. His hand in hers was the only thing that felt human. People approached, offered condolences, used words like tragic and sudden and what a loss. Kane thanked them with a voice that gave nothing away. Sophie wanted to scream, because she could see what no one else could. The barely controlled fury beneath his skin, the way his jaw tightened every time someone praised his father, the way his hand crushed hers when an old business associate called Vittorio a good man. When it was finally over, they got into the car in silence. The driver pulled away from the cemetery. Sophie waited until they were blocks away before she spoke. Are you okay? Fine. Kane? I'm fine, Sophie. His voice was flat, dead. Just tired. She didn't believe him, but she let it go. They rode the rest of the way in silence. The penthouse felt different when they got back. Emptier, colder, like Vittorio's death had sucked something vital out of the air. Kane went straight to his office, closed the door. Sophie stood in the living room, still in her black dress, and wondered what the hell she was supposed to do. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then, you need to see this. A friend. A link. Sophie's stomach tightened. She clicked it. A video loaded. Security footage. Time-stamped 3 days ago. The night Vittorio died. Sophie's breath stopped. The video showed a hospital room. Vittorio in bed. Machines beeping. An IV drip. Then, a figure entered. Tall. Male. Face obscured by a surgical mask. He moved to the IV, injected something. Vittorio's vitals spiked, then flatlined. The figure left. 40 seconds. Beginning to end. The video ended. Sophie's hands were shaking. She watched it again. The figure's build, the way he moved, the expensive watch on his wrist. She knew that watch. Had seen it on Kane's wrist 100 times. No. Her phone buzzed again. Now you know the truth. What are you going to do about it? Sophie's vision swam. She stumbled to the bathroom, barely made it before she threw up. Kane had lied. He'd looked her in the eye and lied. He'd killed his own father, and she'd believed him when he said he hadn't. Sophie pressed her forehead against the cold tile floor. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she'd just seen. A knock on the bathroom door. Sophie? Kane's voice. She froze. You okay in there? Sophie forced herself to stand, rinsed her mouth, splashed water on her face, opened the door. Kane stood in the hallway. He'd taken off his jacket, loosened his tie. He looked exhausted. You're pale, he said. What's wrong? Sophie's throat closed. Tell him. Confront him. Demand the truth. Instead, she heard herself say, just tired. It's been a long day. Kane studied her. She felt like he could see right through her. Then he nodded. Get some rest. I have calls to make. He walked away. Sophie stood in the hallway, heart hammering, and realized she'd just made a choice. She wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. Not until she knew what she was going to do with the information. Because if she confronted Kane now, if she accused him of murder, there was no coming back from that. Gok. Sophie didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the video in her mind. The figure's movements, the watch, The way Vittorio's vitals had spiked and then gone flat. Murder, premeditated, cold-blooded, and Kane had looked her in the eye and lied about it. Sophie's chest ached. She wanted to be wrong, wanted there to be another explanation. But the evidence was crushing. Around 3 a.m., she got up, pulled on clothes, walked to Kane's office. The door was closed. Light spilled from underneath. She knocked. "Come in." Kane sat behind his desk, surrounded by papers. His laptop was open. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No." Sophie closed the door behind her. "Can we talk?" "About what?" Sophie's hands fisted at her sides. "Your father." Kane's expression went carefully blank. "What about him?" "How did he die?" "Heart attack. You saw the autopsy report." "I know what the report said. I'm asking what really happened." Kane set down his pen, leaned back in his chair. "Why are you asking me this now?" "Because I need to hear you say it." Sophie's voice shook. "I need to hear you tell me the truth." "I already told you the truth." "No. You told me what you wanted me to believe." Silence. Kane's gaze locked on hers. "What do you think happened, Sophie?" "I think you killed him." The words hung in the air. Kane didn't react, didn't deny, didn't confirm. He just looked at her with those dark, unreadable eyes. "Why would I do that?" he asked quietly. "Because he murdered Melissa. Because he paid Renata. Because he ruined your life." Sophie's voice was rising. "Because you wanted him dead and you have the resources to make it happen." "That's not proof." "I have a video." Now Kane reacted. His expression went very still. "What video?" Sophie pulled out her phone, hands shaking, pulled up the footage, turned the screen toward him. Kane watched without expression. When it ended, he looked up at her. "Where did you get this?" "Someone sent it to me." "Who?" "I don't know. Anonymous number?" Kane's jaw tightened. "And you believe it's real? Is it?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Yes." Sophie's legs went weak. She grabbed the edge of the desk. "You killed him," she whispered. "Yes." The admission shattered something in her. "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why did you lie to me?" "Because I knew you'd react like this." Kane stood, moved around the desk. "I knew you'd see me differently, and I couldn't—" He broke off. "I couldn't lose you. Not over him." Sophie's chest was heaving. "You looked me in the eye and lied." "I know." "You promised no more lies." "I know." "Then why—" "Because he didn't deserve your mercy." Kane's voice went hard. "He murdered an innocent woman, destroyed my life, tried to destroy yours. And I wasn't going to let him walk away from that. So you became his executioner." "Yes." Sophie pressed her hands to her face. "I can't do this." "Sophie, no." She dropped her hands. "I can't be with someone who kills people. I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't keep making excuses for you." Kane's expression cracked. "Don't do this." "You did this. Not me." "Sophie, please. I'm leaving." The words came out stronger than she felt. "Tonight. Right now." She turned toward the door. Kane's hand closed around her wrist. "Don't. Let go of me." "I can't." Sophie spun around. "You don't get to keep me here." "I'm not keeping you here. I'm asking you to stay." "Why should I?" "Because you love me." His voice was raw, desperate. "Because I love you. Because we're not done yet." "Yes, we are." Sophie pulled her wrist free. "We were done the second you killed your father and lied about it. He deserved to die. That's not your call to make." "Then whose is it?" Kane's voice rose. "The police? The courts? They would have done nothing. He was too powerful, too connected. He would have walked away clean." "So you decided to be judge and executioner?" "Yes." His hands fisted. "Because someone had to." Sophie's throat tightened. "And what happens next time? When someone else threatens me? Threatens us? Are you going to kill them too?" Silence. The answer was written all over his face. "Yes," Kane said finally. "If I have to." Sophie's chest ached. This was who he was, who he'd always been.
She'd just been too blinded by love to see it clearly. I can't live like this, she whispered, always wondering if the people around me are going to disappear, always complicit in your decisions.
Then tell me what you want me to do.
Kane's voice was rough.
Tell me how to fix this.
You can't. Sophie, you can't fix this, Kane, because the problem isn't what you did. It's who you are. She looked at him with tears streaming down her face. And I can't change you. I can't save you. I can only save myself. She walked to the door. This time, Kane didn't stop her. If you walk out that door, he said quietly, I won't come after you. Sophie's hand froze on the handle. What? I won't chase you, won't track you down, won't force you back. His voice was steady, final. If you want to leave, you're free to go. Sophie turned. Kane stood in the middle of his office, looking more alone than she'd ever seen him. Why? She asked. Because I love you enough to let you go if that's what you need. His gaze locked on hers. But I need you to be sure. Because if you walk out now, we're done. No second chances. No coming back. Sophie's heart was hammering. This was it. The moment of choice. Stay with a killer or leave and lose him forever. Her hand trembled on the door handle. Then she let go, crossed the room, and slapped him across the face, hard. Kane's head snapped to the side. I hate you, she said. I know. I hate that you killed him. I hate that you lied. I hate that you're making me choose between my morals and my heart. I know. And I hate that I'm staying anyway. Kane's eyes widened. What? I'm staying. Sophie's hands fisted in his shirt. Not because I forgive you. Not because I think what you did was right, but because walking away from you would destroy me just as much as staying. Sophie, but we're doing this my way from now on. Her voice was hard. No more lies. No more killing. No more making decisions for me. I can't promise. Then I walk right now. Kane stared at her. Then slowly, he nodded. Okay? Okay? No more lies. No more unilateral decisions. His hands came up, framed her face. But I can't promise I won't kill to protect you. That's a line I can't cross. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Sophie's voice shook. But for right now, I need you to try. I need you to at least try to find another way. I'll try. Swear it. I swear. Sophie searched his face, saw the truth there. He meant it. It wasn't enough, but it was something. She kissed him, angry, desperate, devastated. Kane kissed her back like she was the only thing keeping him human. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. We're going to destroy each other, Sophie whispered. I know. And we're going to do it anyway. Yes, she laughed. It came out broken. We're insane. Probably. Definitely. Kane's forehead rested against hers. I'm sorry for lying, for putting you in this position. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I'm going to hold you to that. Good. They stood there in the quiet of his office, holding each other like the world was ending. Maybe it was. Yeah. Morning brought new chaos. Sophie woke to find Kane already gone. A note on his pillow. Meeting with lawyers, back by noon. Tea. She got up, made coffee, tried to process everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. Kane had killed his father. She'd found out. She'd stayed anyway. What did that make her? Sophie didn't have an answer. Her phone buzzed, the same unknown number. You're making a mistake. He'll destroy you. A friend. Sophie stared at the message, then typed back, Who are you? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Someone who knows what Kane Varelli is capable of. Someone who's trying to save you. Sophie's hands tightened on the phone. If you want to save me, tell me who you are. No response. Sophie waited. 5 minutes? 10. Nothing. She threw her phone on the couch. Whoever was sending these messages knew too much. Had access to security footage that should have been locked down tight. Someone close to Kane, or someone with resources to match his. Sophie's stomach tightened. She needed to tell Kane, needed to show him the messages, but something held her back. Because the sender was right about one thing. Kane was dangerous. And Sophie had just committed to staying with him despite that.
What did that make her? Kane came back at noon like he'd promised. He found Sophie in the living room, laptop open, pretending to work. "Hey." He kissed the top of her head. "How are you?" "Fine." The lie came easily. "How'd the meeting go?" "Complicated. My father's estate is a mess. Offshore accounts, shell corporations. It's going to take months to sort out." "And his criminal enterprises?" Kane's expression went carefully blank. "What about them?" "Are you taking them over?" "Some of them. The ones worth keeping." Sophie's stomach dropped. "Kane, I'm not my father, Sophie. I'm not going to run the same operations he did." He sat beside her. "But I can't just walk away from everything. People depend on that income. Families, communities. Criminal families. People." His voice was firm. "I'm going to clean it up. Make it legitimate where I can. Shut down what I can't. And if you can't do either, then I'll burn it down and start over." He looked at her. "I meant what I said last night. I'm trying. For you." Sophie wanted to believe him, wanted to think Kane could walk away from his father's legacy, but she knew better. Power didn't let go easily. "I got more messages," she said quietly. Kane's expression sharpened. "From who?" "The same person who sent the video. They're calling themselves a friend." "What did they say?" Sophie pulled up the messages, showed him. Kane's jaw tightened as he read. "This person knows too much," he said. "I know. And they have access to security systems that should be locked down." "I know that too." Kane stood, started pacing. "It's someone inside my organization, someone with clearance, or someone with enough money to buy access. Either way, they're trying to drive a wedge between us." Sophie's chest tightened. "It's working." Kane stopped, looked at her. "What?" "Every time I get one of these messages, I question whether I should be here, whether loving you is worth the cost." Her voice shook. "And I hate that some anonymous stranger has that much power over me." Kane crossed to her, knelt in front of where she sat, took her hands. "Don't let them win," he said quietly. "Don't let whoever this is destroy what we have." "What if they're right? What if you're going to destroy me? Then I'll rebuild you." His grip tightened. "Over and over, as many times as it takes." Sophie's throat closed. "That's not healthy." "I don't care." "Kane, I don't care if it's healthy or sane or right. I care that you're here, that you chose to stay." His voice went rough. "And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you don't regret it." Sophie pulled her hands free. "You can't promise that." "Watch me." He kissed her. Hard. Claiming. Sophie kissed him back even as her mind screamed that this was wrong, that loving him would destroy her, that she should run while she still could. But her body didn't listen. Her heart didn't listen. She was in too deep, and drowning had never felt so much like flying. Nantuckets. The next message came 3 days later. Sophie was alone in the penthouse when her phone buzzed. "He's planning something that will change everything. Ask him about the syndicate meeting tomorrow night." A friend Sophie's blood went cold. Syndicate. The same organization Marcus Delacroix had mentioned at that first gala. Organized crime. Kane had said he was cleaning up his father's legacy, but meeting with the syndicate didn't sound like cleaning up. It sounded like diving deeper. Sophie waited until Kane got home that night. He walked in looking exhausted, jacket gone, tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. "Long day?" she asked. "You have no idea." He poured himself a drink, drained it. "Vittorio's people are circling. Everyone wants to know if I'm taking over or walking away." "What are you telling them?" "That I'm evaluating my options." Sophie's hands tightened on her coffee cup. "What about the syndicate?" Kane went very still. "What about them?" "You're meeting with them tomorrow night." "How do you know that?" "Does it matter?" Kane set down his glass. "Yes, it matters. That meeting is classified. No one outside my inner circle should know about it." "Well, someone does. And they told me." "Who?" "The same person who's been sending me messages. The same person who sent the video." Kane's expression went dark. "What did they say?" Sophie pulled up the message, showed him. Kane read it. His jaw tightened. "I'm handling it.
he said. Handling what? The syndicate, my father's debts, the power vacuum his death created. By taking his place? By making sure no one else does. Sophie's stomach dropped. Kane, if I don't step in, someone worse will. Someone who won't hesitate to use violence, to hurt innocent people. His voice was hard. At least if I'm in charge, I can control the damage. That's the same logic your father used. I'm not my father. Then prove it. Sophie stood. Walk away. Let the syndicate collapse. Let someone else deal with the fallout. I can't. Why not? Because people will die. Kane's hands fisted. My father made deals, promises. If I don't honor them, blood will be spilled, and it won't be his people who pay the price. It'll be innocent bystanders. So you're doing this to protect people? Yes. Or you're doing it because you want the power. Kane's expression went cold. You think I want this? You think I want to spend my life looking over my shoulder, making deals with criminals, living in constant threat of violence? I think you don't know how to walk away from it. Maybe I don't. His voice went quiet. But that doesn't mean I'm not trying. Sophie stared at him, at the man who kept saying he was trying to be better, while making choices that dragged him deeper into darkness. I can't watch you become your father, she said. I'm not. You're meeting with the syndicate, taking over his operations, making the same deals he made. Her voice shook. How is that different? Because I'm going to dismantle it from the inside, clean it up, make it legitimate. And if you can't, then I'll destroy it. With you inside? Kane was quiet for a long moment. If that's what it takes. Sophie's chest ached. This man, this impossible self-destructive man. I'm coming with you, she said. What? To the meeting, tomorrow night. I'm coming. Absolutely not. You don't get to make that decision. Sophie's voice was hard. You want me to trust you, to believe you're trying to be better? Then let me see it. Let me witness what you're doing. Sophie, these are dangerous people. I know. I've met some of them. She moved closer. And I'm not asking, Kane. I'm telling you. Either I come with you or I walk right now, tonight. Kane's jaw worked. She could see him calculating, weighing the risks. Fine, he said finally, but you stay by my side. You don't speak unless spoken to. And if I tell you to leave, you leave. No arguments. Deal. Kane pulled her close. You're going to be the death of me. Probably. He kissed her forehead. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hell. He wasn't wrong. The syndicate meeting was held in a private club that didn't exist on any map. Sophie stood beside Kane in a black dress that Isabel had somehow materialized in 3 hours. Her hair was pulled back. Her makeup was severe. She looked like she belonged. She felt like she was walking into a lion's den. The club was all dark wood and leather, cigar smoke and expensive whiskey, men in suits that cost more than cars. They looked at Sophie like she was a curiosity, or a target. Kane's hand stayed at the small of her back, possessive, protective. They were led to a private room in the back. 6 men waited inside. Sophie recognized Marcus Delacroix. The others were strangers, old, powerful, dangerous. Gentlemen, Kane said, thank you for meeting with me. We were surprised to get your invitation, one of them said. Silver hair, hard eyes. Your father never brought women to these meetings. My father is dead. Kane's voice was flat. I do things differently, clearly. The man's gaze slid to Sophie, lingered. And who is this? Sophie Mercer, my partner. In business or pleasure? Both. The room went quiet. Then Marcus laughed. Bold. I like it. The silver-haired man didn't look amused. You asked for this meeting, Varelli. What do you want? Kane sat, pulled Sophie down beside him. I want to renegotiate my father's agreements. Silence. On what grounds? Another man asked. On the grounds that he's dead and his deals died with him. Kane's voice was calm, controlled. I'm not honoring contracts I didn't make. That's not how this works. It is now. The temperature in the room dropped. The silver-haired man leaned forward. Your father owed us. Territories, percentages, access. You don't get to walk in here and rewrite the terms. Yes, I do. Kane didn't blink. Because if you want war, I'll give you war. And I promise you, you won't win. Sophie's pulse spiked. This was insane. Kane was threatening men who could have him killed with a phone call. You're bluffing, the silver-haired man said. Try me. The room went silent. Then Marcus laughed again. He's got balls. I'll give him that. This isn't a joke, Delacroix. I know it's not. Marcus looked at Kane. What are you proposing? Clean operations only. No drugs. No trafficking. No violence against civilians. Kane's voice was steady. I'll honor the financial agreements. The territory splits, but everything else is renegotiated. And if we refuse? Then I burn it all down. Expose every deal, every offshore account, every dirty cop and politician on your payrolls. Kane's smile was cold. I'll destroy everything my father built and take you all with me. The threat hung in the air. Sophie couldn't breathe. The silver-haired man stood. You're making a mistake, boy. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. The man looked at Sophie. You should run while you still can, girl. This man will get you killed. Then he walked out. 2 others followed. Marcus stayed, along with 2 men Sophie didn't recognize. You've got guts, Marcus said. Stupid, but impressive. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. Marcus leaned back. You want clean operations? Fine. But you need to prove you can deliver. Prove you're not just Vittorio's son playing gangster. What do you want? There's a shipment coming in next week. Merchandise your father promised to move, except it's not clean. Sophie's stomach dropped. What kind of merchandise? She asked. Everyone looked at her. Marcus smiled. Smart girl, asking the right questions. Answer her, Kane said. Weapons, military grade, headed for a conflict zone. I'm not moving weapons. Then the deal's off. Marcus stood. You want to renegotiate? Fine. But you don't get to cherry pick. You handle this shipment, prove you can work with us, and we'll talk about cleaning up operations. Otherwise, we find someone else to take Vittorio's place. Kane's jaw tightened. Sophie could see the war behind his eyes. Principle versus pragmatism. Morality versus survival. I'll think about it, Kane said finally. You have 3 days. Marcus moved to the door, stopped, looked back at Sophie. For what it's worth, I hope you survive him, but I wouldn't bet on it. Then he left. The room emptied. Kane and Sophie sat in silence. You can't do it, Sophie said quietly. I know. Those weapons will kill people. I know. Then why are you considering it? Kane looked at her. Because if I don't, someone else will. And they won't hesitate, won't lose sleep over it. That's not good enough. It's the only option I have. His voice was rough. Unless you have a better idea. Sophie's mind raced. There had to be another way. A way to stop the shipment without becoming complicit. We call the authorities, she said. They're bought. Half of them are on the syndicate's payroll. Then we go federal, FBI, someone who isn't compromised. And implicate ourselves in the process? We have immunity. You said you could get immunity for you, not for me. Kane stood, started pacing. The moment I testify against the syndicate, I'm a dead man. Then we disappear. New identities, new lives. They'd find us. Not if we're careful. Sophie, he stopped, looked at her. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but there's no clean way out of this. There has to be. There isn't. His voice was flat. Final. I either handle the shipment and buy us leverage, or I refuse and start a war that gets innocent people killed. Sophie's chest tightened. Those aren't the only options. Yes, they are. Then find a third option. Create one. How? Sophie stood, crossed to him. I don't know, but you're brilliant, resourceful. You've built an empire from nothing, so figure it out. Kane's expression cracked. What if I can't? Then we go down fighting. She grabbed his hands. Together. For a moment he just looked at her, then he pulled her close, held her like she was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. I don't deserve you, he said roughly. I know. But I'm keeping you anyway. I know that too. They stood there in the empty room,
holding each other. And Sophie tried not to think about the fact that they had 3 days. 3 days to find a solution, or 3 days until everything fell apart. They spent the next 2 days planning. Kane made calls, reached out to contacts, looked for angles. Sophie researched, dug into the syndicate's operations, looked for weaknesses. By the 3rd day, they had something, not perfect, but possible. The shipment is moving through a port the syndicate doesn't fully control, Sophie said, pointing to her laptop screen. There's a window between when it arrives and when it's picked up, 12 hours, maybe less. And you want to intercept it? No, I want to sabotage it. Her voice was steady. Make it impossible to deliver. Force the deal to collapse without implicating you. Kane stared at the screen. That's insane. So is everything else we've considered. If we're caught, we won't be. You can't know that. No, but I know sitting here doing nothing isn't an option. Sophie looked at him. You wanted a 3rd option. This is it. Kane was quiet for a long moment. If we do this, he said slowly, there's no coming back. The syndicate will know someone interfered. They'll investigate. And if they trace it back to us, then we deal with it. Sophie, I'm not asking for permission, Kane. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. You can help me or get out of the way. Kane stared at her. Then, slowly, he smiled. When did you become so reckless? The day I signed your contract. He laughed. It came out rough. Okay, let's do it. Really?
Really? He pulled her close. But if this goes wrong, if you get hurt, I won't. But if you do, then you'll burn the world down to save me. I know. Let's make sure it doesn't come to that.
The sabotage was planned for midnight. The shipment was arriving at a private dock on the waterfront. Kane's intelligence said it would sit in a warehouse for 12 hours before being moved. Their window was narrow. Get in, plant the devices, get out. Simple. Except nothing about this was simple. Sophie stood in the back of a van 3 blocks from the target, dressed in black, heart hammering. Kane's security team surrounded them, 6 men who didn't ask questions. You don't have to do this, Kane said for the 10th time. Yes, I do. Sophie, we've been over this. I'm coming. End of discussion. Kane's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. The van stopped. They got out. The night air was cold. The smell of salt and oil and decay hung heavy. Kane led the way. Sophie stayed close behind him. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark, quiet. Too quiet. Sophie's instincts screamed trap. But they'd come too far to turn back now. They reached the side entrance. Kane's tech guy disabled the alarm in 30 seconds. The door clicked open. They slipped inside. The warehouse was massive, rows of shipping containers, crates stacked to the ceiling, and in the center, the shipment, wooden crates marked with innocuous labels, medical supplies, farm equipment, lies. Sophie moved forward, pulled out the devices Kane's people had prepared, small, powerful, designed to corrupt the weapon's firing mechanisms without causing explosions. She started placing them. 1 crate, 2, 3. Behind her, Kane kept watch. Everything was going according to plan. Too well. Sophie's hands were shaking as she placed the 4th device. Then, lights. Blinding, industrial. They flooded the warehouse. Sophie froze. Kane spun around. And there, standing in the entrance, Marcus Delacroix, with 20 armed men behind him. Well, Marcus said, smiling, isn't this interesting? Sophie's blood went cold. They'd been set up. Marcus? Kane's voice was calm, too calm. This isn't what it looks like. No? Marcus walked closer. Because it looks like you're sabotaging merchandise that doesn't belong to you. I was inspecting. Don't insult me, Varelli. Marcus's smile faded. You were caught, red-handed, and now you're going to pay for it. Kane's security team moved, weapons drawn. Marcus's men did the same. 20 guns against 6. Sophie's heart was hammering. This was it. The end. Let her go, Kane said quietly. Marcus laughed. Why would I do that? Because she's not part of this. She doesn't know anything. She's standing in the middle of a sabotage operation. I'd say she knows plenty.
Marcus,
You made your choice, Varelli. Now live with it. Marcus nodded to his men. Take them. The men moved forward. Kane's security raised their weapons. Sophie's mind raced. They were outnumbered, outgunned. There was no way out, unless... Wait! Sophie's voice cut through the warehouse. Everyone stopped, looked at her. I'll make you a deal, she said. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Let Kane go. I'll stay. I'll tell you everything you want to know. Sophie, no. Shut up, Kane. She looked at Marcus. You want leverage? I'm it. The woman Kane Varelli loves. The one he'd burn the world for. She forced herself to smile. That's worth more than killing both of us. Marcus studied her. You're smart, he said. Smarter than Vittorio's boy deserves. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. He moved closer, stopped 3 feet away. But I need proof you're worth keeping. What kind of proof? Marcus smiled, then his hand moved. Fast. He grabbed Sophie, spun her around, pressed a gun to her temple. Proof that Kane Varelli will do anything to save you. Kane went still, completely still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. Let her go, he said quietly. Make me. Marcus, drop your weapons, all of you, or I put a bullet in her brain. Sophie's breath was coming in short gasps. The gun was cold against her skin. Kane's gaze locked on hers. She saw murder in his eyes, and something that looked like goodbye. Don't, she whispered. Kane's hands fisted. I said drop them, Marcus repeated. Kane looked at his men, nodded. One by one they lowered their weapons, set them on the ground. Marcus smiled. Good. Now. Sophie moved. Fast. She slammed her elbow into Marcus's ribs, twisted, dropped. The gun went off. The bullet passed over her head. Kane lunged. His fist connected with Marcus's face. Once, twice. Marcus went down. Then, chaos. Gunfire erupted. Kane's men grabbed their weapons, returned fire. Sophie scrambled behind a crate. Her ears were ringing. Her hands were shaking. This was hell. She looked up, saw Kane fighting his way toward her. Sophie! She reached for him. Their fingers touched. Then, an explosion. The devices. Someone had triggered them early. The force threw Sophie backward. She hit a crate. Hard. Everything went black. Mick. Sophie woke to silence. Her head was pounding. Her vision was blurred. She tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her ribs. Easy. Kane's voice. She blinked, focused. He knelt beside her, blood on his face, his shirt torn, but alive. What happened? She croaked. The devices detonated, took out half the shipment. Most of Marcus's men ran. His hands were gentle as he helped her sit. You've been out for 5 minutes. Marcus? Gone. His people dragged him out before the police arrived. Police? Someone called it in, probably neighbors hearing the explosion. Kane's expression was grim. We need to leave, now. He helped her to her feet. Sophie's legs shook but held. They stumbled toward the exit. Behind them, the warehouse burned. Sirens wailed in the distance. They made it to the van. Kane's remaining security was waiting. They drove. Sophie sat in the back, head against Kane's shoulder, and tried not to fall apart. They'd survived. Barely. But Marcus was still out there, and now he had proof that Kane had betrayed the syndicate. What happens now? Sophie asked. Kane was quiet for a long moment. Now, he said quietly, we go to war. The war came faster than Sophie expected. 3 days after the warehouse explosion, Kane's penthouse became a fortress. Armed guards in the lobby, security cameras on every floor, men with guns who didn't sleep. Sophie watched it all from the windows and felt like she was living in a different world. Kane barely slept, barely ate. He moved through the penthouse like a ghost, making calls, holding meetings, planning moves she wasn't privy to. The distance between them grew, not intentionally, just inevitably, because war didn't leave room for softness. On the 4th day, Sophie found him standing in his office at 3 a.m, staring at a map covered in red marks. Come to bed, she said quietly. Can't. Marcus is moving assets, consolidating power. If I don't counter, then counter tomorrow. You need rest. Kane looked at her. His eyes were bloodshot. His face was drawn. He looked 10 years older than he had a week ago. I can't afford to rest, he said.
Not until this is over. And when will it be over? When Marcus is neutralized. The word hung between them. Neutralized, not arrested, not stopped. Neutralized. Sophie's stomach tightened. You're going to kill him. If I have to. Kane. He put a gun to your head, Sophie. He threatened to kill you in front of me. His voice was flat. Empty. That doesn't get forgiven. But it can be dealt with legally.
There is no legal here. Kane turned back to the map. This is my world. My rules. And in my world, you threaten what's mine, you die. Sophie's chest ached. This was the man she loved, cold, ruthless, capable of murder, and still, impossibly, hers. I'm scared, she whispered. Kane's shoulders tensed. Then he turned, crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. I know, he said against her hair. I'm scared too. The admission broke something in her. Sophie wrapped her arms around him, held tight. Don't become your father, she said. I won't. Promise me. Kane pulled back, looked down at her with exhausted eyes. I promise, he said quietly. I'll do whatever it takes to end this. But I won't become him. Sophie searched his face, wanted desperately to believe him. Okay, she whispered. Kane kissed her forehead. Then he went back to his map, and Sophie went back to bed alone. The next morning brought news. Marcus had made his move. He'd called a meeting of the syndicate, demanded Kane be removed from his father's position, accused him of betrayal, of sabotage, of putting personal interests above the organization, and the syndicate was listening. They're voting tomorrow night, Kane said. His voice was steady, but Sophie could hear the tension underneath. If they side with Marcus, I'm out, and everyone who's loyal to me becomes a target. Sophie's hands tightened on her coffee cup. What are you going to do? Attend, make my case. That's insane. Marcus will have you killed the second you walk in. He'll try. Kane, I'm not running, Sophie. His gaze locked on hers. If I run, I lose everything. My father's legacy, my leverage, my ability to protect the people who depend on me. He paused. My ability to protect you. Sophie's throat tightened. I don't need you to protect me. Yes, you do. Because if Marcus wins tomorrow night, he won't stop until you're dead. Kane's voice went hard. You're the only leverage he has against me. He knows it. I know it. So I have to end this tomorrow night, one way or another. Sophie stood, crossed to him. Then I'm coming with you. No. Yes. Sophie, you don't get to make this decision for me. Her voice was steady, final. If you're walking into a room full of people who want you dead, I'm going with you. Because if this goes wrong, if you don't walk out of there, I need to know I did everything I could. Kane stared at her. You're insane, he said quietly. I learned from the best. His expression cracked. Then he pulled her close, kissed her like the world was ending. Maybe it was. If anything happens to you, he said roughly, it won't. But if it does, then you'll burn everything down to avenge me. I know. Sophie pulled back, looked up at him. But let's make sure it doesn't come to that. Kane's hands framed her face. I love you, he said. I know. Say it back. I love you. The words came easily, honestly. Even though you're impossible and dangerous and probably going to get us both killed. Probably. They stood there in the quiet of his office, holding each other, and Sophie tried not to think about the fact that tomorrow night, one of them might not come home. The syndicate meeting was held in the same private club as before. Sophie stood beside Kane in a dress that felt like armor, black, elegant, severe. Her hair was pulled back, her makeup was perfect. She looked calm. Inside, she was screaming. They walked into the club together, Kane's hand at the small of her back, his security team surrounding them. The room they'd met in before was packed. 30 men, maybe more, all of them powerful, all of them dangerous. And at the head of the table, Marcus Delacroix. His face was bruised from where Kane had hit him, but his eyes were sharp, triumphant. Varelli, he said, I'm surprised you came. You called the meeting. Kane's voice was calm. I'm here to answer your accusations. There's nothing to answer. You sabotaged syndicate property, destroyed merchandise worth millions, endangered our operations. Marcus leaned forward. You're a liability, and liabilities get removed. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Sophie's pulse spiked. This was a setup. The vote was already decided. Kane knew it too. She could see it in the set of his shoulders, the tension in his jaw. But he didn't back down. I sabotage weapons that would have been used to kill innocent people, Kane said. His voice was steady, strong. My father built this organization on violence and fear. I'm trying to build something better. Better? Marcus laughed. You're trying to destroy what your father spent decades creating. Good. He built something rotten, something that should be destroyed. The room went silent. Sophie could feel the shift in the air. Half the men looked angry. The other half looked uncertain. You want to vote me out? Kane continued. Fine, do it. But know this. The second I walk out of here, I go to the FBI. I give them everything, every account, every name, every dirty secret this organization has buried. He paused. And I'll make sure you all go down with me. Marcus's smile faded. You wouldn't dare. Try me. The threat hung in the air. Sophie held her breath. Then, one of the older men stood. I've heard enough, he said. His voice was gravelly, authoritative. Kane Varelli is right. We've spent decades operating in the shadows, building empires on blood. And where has it gotten us? Constant war, constant threat, constant paranoia. Dominic, Marcus started. Shut up, Delacroix. Dominic looked around the room. Vittorio Varelli was my friend, but he was also a monster, and his son is offering us a way out, a way to legitimize what we've built, to survive in a world that's changing. He looked at Kane. I vote to give him a chance. Another man stood, then another. Sophie's chest tightened. This might actually work. Then Marcus stood. Fine, he said quietly. If that's how you want to play this. He pulled a gun, aimed it at Sophie. Everything stopped. Kane moved, fast, but not fast enough. Marcus's finger was already on the trigger. She dies unless you walk away, Marcus said. His voice was cold, empty. Right now, give up your position, leave the syndicate, and I'll let her live. Kane froze. Sophie could see the war in his eyes, power versus her life, the empire versus her. Don't, she said quietly. Sophie, don't give him what he wants. Her voice was steady, even as her heart hammered. He's going to kill me anyway. You know that. No. Yes. She looked at Marcus. You're going to kill me whether Kane walks away or not, because I'm the only thing he cares about, the only leverage anyone has against him. Marcus smiled. Smart girl. So do it. Sophie's voice didn't shake. Pull the trigger. Kill me. And see what happens when you take the only thing Kane Varelli loves. The room went dead silent. Marcus's smile faded, because everyone in that room knew what would happen. Kane would burn the world down. You're bluffing, Marcus said. Am I? Sophie took a step forward, toward the gun. You think I'm afraid to die? I've been living with that fear for weeks. Every time I close my eyes, I wonder if this is the day someone finally kills me for loving the wrong man. Another step. So go ahead, pull the trigger. But know this, my death won't save you. It'll just make Kane unstoppable. Marcus's hand trembled, just slightly. Sophie saw it, saw the crack in his armor. She's right, Kane said quietly. His voice was soft, lethal. You kill her, and there's nowhere you can hide. No amount of money or power will save you. I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth, and I'll make your death last weeks. The gun wavered. Then Dominic moved. Fast for an old man, he grabbed Marcus's wrist, twisted. The gun clattered to the floor. Marcus struggled. Dominic held firm. Enough, Dominic said. This ends now. He nodded to two of his men. They moved forward, grabbed Marcus, pulled him away from the table. Marcus thrashed. You're making a mistake. The only mistake was tolerating you this long. Dominic looked at Kane. He's yours. Do with him what you will. Kane's expression was ice. He walked toward Marcus, stopped in front of him. You put a gun to her head, Kane said quietly. Twice. Marcus's face went pale. Kane, You threatened to kill the woman I love. In front of me. In front of witnesses. Kane's voice was soft. Empty. That has consequences. His fist moved, faster than Sophie could track. It connected with Marcus's jaw. Once, twice, 3 times, Marcus went limp in his captor's arms. Kane stepped back. His knuckles were bleeding. "Get him out of here," he said. "I don't care where. Just make sure I never see him again." Dominic nodded. Marcus was dragged from the room. The door closed behind him. Silence. Then Dominic spoke. "All in favor of Kane Varelli taking his father's seat on the council?" Every hand went up, even the ones who'd supported Marcus. "Motion passes." Dominic extended his hand. "Welcome to the table, Varelli. Don't make me regret this." Kane shook his hand. "I won't." Dominic looked at Sophie. "You've got guts, girl, more than most men in this room." Sophie's throat was tight. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You just became the most dangerous woman in this city." His smile was grim. "Everyone now knows Kane Varelli's weakness. That makes you a target for life." The words landed like stones. Sophie looked at Kane. He was already looking at her, and in his eyes she saw the truth. This was the price of loving him, a lifetime of looking over her shoulder, of wondering if today was the day someone used her to destroy him. But when Kane reached for her hand, when his fingers laced with hers, Sophie held on tight, because some prices were worth paying. Isaac. They left the club in silence. The car ride back was quiet, tense. Kane's security team surrounded them. 3 cars, armed escorts. Sophie sat pressed against Kane's side and tried to process what had just happened. She'd walked into a room full of killers, had a gun pointed at her head, and talked her way out. Her hands were shaking. Kane noticed, covered them with his. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "No." The word came out honest, raw. "I don't think I'll ever be okay again." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I made my choice." She looked up at him. "I chose you, knowing what it would cost. So don't apologize for the consequences." Kane's expression cracked. He pulled her closer, pressed his forehead to hers. "I don't deserve you," he said roughly. "I know. But I'm keeping you anyway." "I know that too." They held each other as the car moved through the city, and Sophie tried not to think about all the ways this could still go wrong. Good. The penthouse felt different when they got back. Quieter. Like the war had finally ended. Kane's security team did a sweep, declared it clear. Then they left. And it was just the 2 of them. Sophie stood by the windows looking out at the city. The lights glittered like scattered stars. Somewhere out there, Marcus was being dealt with. Somewhere out there, the syndicate was adapting to new leadership. Somewhere out there, life went on. Sophie pressed her hand to the glass. "What are you thinking?" Kane asked. He'd come up behind her, quiet as always. "That I don't recognize my life anymore." She turned, looked at him. 3 months ago, I was a financial analyst with a normal life. Now I'm... She gestured vaguely. "Whatever this is." "Do you regret it?" Sophie considered. The honest answer was complicated. "I regret the violence," she said slowly. "The fear. The constant threat. I regret that people died because of us. But I don't regret you." Her voice was quiet, certain. "Even knowing what I know now, even after everything, I'd still sign that contract. I'd still choose to stay." Kane's expression went raw. He crossed to her, cupped her face. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice," he said. "How?" "By being the man you see when you look at me. Not the monster everyone else sees." His thumb brushed her cheek. "By building something good, something that matters, something our children can be proud of." Sophie's breath caught. "Children?" "Eventually, if you want them." She couldn't finish. Hadn't let herself think that far ahead. Hadn't dared to imagine a future where they weren't just surviving. "I want everything with you," Kane said quietly. "Marriage, family, a life that's more than this endless war." He paused. "But only if you want it too." Sophie's eyes burned. "I want it," she whispered. "God help me. I want all of it." Kane kissed her,
soft, reverent, like she was something sacred. When they broke apart, Sophie was trembling. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now." Kane's arms tightened around her. "Now we start over. Build something clean, something legitimate." "Can you do that?" "I don't know, but I'm going to try." He looked down at her. "For you, for us, for whatever future we're building." Sophie closed her eyes, let herself believe it, let herself hope. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's build something." The next weeks were chaos. Kane began the process of dismantling his father's empire. Some operations he legitimized, turned them into real businesses with real employees and real tax returns. Others he shut down completely, paid severance to the people who worked there, made sure they landed on their feet. The ones that couldn't be saved, the ones too dirty, too violent, too corrupt, he burned. Literally. Sophie watched from the penthouse as one of Vittorio's warehouses went up in flames. Insurance job, the news called it. She knew better, but she didn't ask, because some questions were better left unanswered. Through it all, Kane kept his promise. No more lies. He told her everything, every deal, every decision, every risk, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. And slowly, painfully, they built something that looked like trust. Sick. 3 months after the syndicate meeting, Sophie woke to find Kane gone. A note on his pillow. "Meet me on the roof." See. Sophie's stomach tightened. The roof was where Kane went when he needed to think, when something was wrong. She dressed quickly, took the elevator up. The roof was cold, windy. The sun was just starting to rise over the city. Kane stood at the edge, looking out. He turned when he heard her. "Hey," he said. "What's wrong?" Sophie asked immediately. "Nothing's wrong." "Then why?" "I wanted to show you something." He held out his hand. Sophie took it. He led her to the other side of the roof. And there, a garden. Small, simple, but bursting with life. Flowers in every color, herbs in neat rows, a small tree just beginning to bud. Sophie's breath caught. "When did you... Iakahawu?" "I've been working on it for weeks. Had people come at night so you wouldn't see." Kane's voice was quiet. "I wanted to give you something beautiful, something that wasn't about violence or power or survival." Sophie's eyes burned. "It's perfect," she whispered. "It's a start." He pulled her close. "I know I can't erase what we've been through, can't undo the violence or the fear, but I can give you this. A place that's just ours, where nothing bad has happened, where we can build something new." Sophie turned in his arms, looked up at him, this man, this impossible, dangerous, devoted man who'd killed for her and built her a garden. "I love you," she said. "I know." "No, I don't think you do." She grabbed his face, made him look at her. "I love you more than I've ever loved anything, more than I thought I was capable of, and it terrifies me, because I know what you are, I know what you've done, and I love you anyway." Kane's expression cracked. "Sophie, I'm not done." Her voice shook. "I love you enough to stay when I should run, to forgive when I should condemn, to build a life with you even though it's probably going to destroy me." She pulled him down, pressed her forehead to his. "So don't you dare take that for granted. Don't you dare make me regret it." "I won't," Kane said roughly. "I swear I'll spend every day for the rest of my life proving I'm worth it." "You'd better." He kissed her, hard, desperate, grateful. Sophie kissed him back and let herself feel everything. The fear, the love, the hope that maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. When they broke apart, the sun was fully up. The city stretched out below them, full of possibility, full of danger, full of life. "What happens now?" Sophie asked. It was becoming their question. Kane smiled. "Now we live." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He pulled something from his pocket, a small box. Sophie's breath stopped. He opened it. Inside, a ring. Simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light. "I'm not asking," Kane said quietly. "I already know your answer, but I'm making it official anyway." He took her hand, slid the ring onto her finger.
You're mine, Sophie Mercer, in every way that matters, and I'm never letting you go. Sophie stared at the ring, at the man kneeling in front of her, at the future stretching out before them. She should say no, should run, should save herself while she still could. Instead, she said, "Okay." Kane's eyes widened. "Okay? Okay." She pulled him to his feet. "I'm yours, in every impossible, dangerous, probably doomed way, and I'm not letting you go either." Kane laughed. It was the first time she'd heard him laugh in months, real laughter, not bitter, not dark, just joy. He picked her up, spun her around. Sophie held on tight and let herself believe. In him, in them, in the possibility that love could survive anything, even this. But 2 years later, Sophie stood in a different penthouse, smaller, quieter, filled with light. She'd convinced Kane to move, to leave his father's empire behind, literally and figuratively. This place was theirs. No ghosts, no history, no blood. Just them. And now, a crib in the corner of the bedroom. Sophie moved to it, looked down. Their daughter slept peacefully, dark hair, Kane's features, Sophie's eyes, perfect. She's beautiful. Sophie didn't turn, didn't need to. She knew Kane's footsteps, his breathing, the way he moved through space. She is, Sophie agreed. Kane came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. Together, they watched their daughter sleep. "I never thought I'd have this," Kane said quietly. "A family. A real one. Something good." "Do you regret it? Leaving the syndicate? Walking away from my father's empire?" He was quiet for a moment. "No, I regret that it took me so long, that people died before I figured out what mattered." Sophie leaned back against him. "You can't change the past." "I know, but I can build a better future." His arms tightened. "For her. For you. For us." Sophie closed her eyes. The last 2 years had been hard. Kane had made enemies by walking away from the syndicate. Some people didn't forgive, didn't forget. There had been threats, close calls, moments when Sophie thought they wouldn't survive. But they had, together, and now they had this, a life, a family, something worth protecting. "I love you," Sophie whispered. "I love you too." They stood there in the quiet, watching their daughter breathe, and for the first time in years, Sophie felt at peace. Not because the danger was gone. It would never be completely gone. But because she'd chosen this, chosen him, chosen to build something beautiful in the ruins of what they'd destroyed. And that was enough. Bakam. Later that night, after their daughter was asleep and the city had gone quiet, Sophie found Kane standing by the window. He did that sometimes. Stared out at the city like he was keeping watch. Old habits, he'd said once. Sophie moved to stand beside him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Renata." Sophie's stomach tightened. Renata Voss. The woman who'd destroyed Sophie's life, who'd killed Melissa, who'd orchestrated everything. She was in prison now. Life sentence. No parole. But her shadow still lingered. "What about her?" Sophie asked. "I got a letter today. From her lawyer." Kane's voice was flat. "She wants to see me." "Why?" "Didn't say, just that it's important." Sophie's hands fisted. "You're not going." "I don't know." "Kane." "She's dying." He looked at her. "Stage 4 cancer. Doctors give her 6 months, maybe less." Sophie's chest tightened. She wanted to feel sympathy. Couldn't. "That doesn't change what she did," Sophie said. "I know." "Then why would you even consider seeing her?" Kane was quiet for a long moment. "Because she's the only one left who knew Melissa," he said finally. "The only one who can tell me the truth about what happened, why my father wanted her dead, what she knew that made her a threat." "Does it matter anymore?" "It matters to me." Sophie studied him, saw the pain beneath the surface, the questions that had haunted him for a decade. "Okay," she said quietly. Kane looked at her. "Okay? If you need to see her, if you need those answers, then go." Sophie grabbed his hand. "But I'm coming with you." "Sophie, some non-negotiable."
Her voice was firm. You want closure? Fine. But you're not facing her alone. Kane stared at her. Then he pulled her close. Thank you, he said roughly. Sophie held him tight and tried not to think about the fact that sometimes closure meant opening old wounds. The prison was 2 hours outside the city. Maximum security, cold, gray, the kind of place that sucked hope from the air. Sophie sat beside Kane in the waiting room, hands clasped tight. They'd left their daughter with Kane's most trusted security, had told themselves this would be quick, in and out. Final answers. Then they could move on. A guard appeared. She's ready. They followed him through corridors that smelled like bleach and despair, into a small room, concrete walls, a table, 2 chairs. And Renata. She looked different, thinner, paler. Her hair had gone gray, but her eyes were still sharp, still dangerous. She looked up when they entered, smiled. Kane, she said, you came. You said it was important. His voice was flat. And you. Renata's gaze slid to Sophie. The woman who stole everything from me. Sophie's jaw tightened. I didn't steal anything. You lost it yourself. Did I? Renata's smile widened. Or did you just play your part perfectly? What's that supposed to mean? Renata looked at Kane. You didn't tell her. Tell me what? Sophie asked. Kane's expression was carefully blank. Sophie's stomach dropped. Tell me what, Kane? Renata laughed. Oh, this is delicious. You still don't know. Know what? Sophie's voice rose. That you were always part of the plan. Renata leaned forward. That Kane didn't save you from the fraud charges. He orchestrated them. The world tilted. Sophie looked at Kane. That's not true, she said. His silence was damning. Kane, her voice cracked. Tell me that's not true. Sophia, tell me you didn't frame me. Tell me you didn't destroy my life just to... She couldn't finish, couldn't make her brain process what Renata was saying. I didn't frame you, Kane said quietly. Renata did that. But He broke off. But what? But I knew about it. His voice was rough. 3 days before you were arrested, I found out what Renata was planning, and I let it happen. Sophie's legs gave out. She grabbed the table. Why? The word came out broken. Because I needed you desperate enough to sign the contract, desperate enough to accept my terms. Kane's expression was devastated. I'm sorry, Sophie. I'm so sorry. But I couldn't think of another way to get you back. Sophie couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The man she loved, the man she'd built a life with, had used her, manipulated her, let her be destroyed just so he could save her. You let me lose everything, she whispered. My career, my reputation, my freedom. You let Renata destroy me because it served your purpose. Yes. The honesty of it was crushing. Sophie looked at Renata. She was smiling. Now you see, Renata said. Now you understand what kind of man you married, what kind of monster you let father your child. Sophie's hands were shaking. She wanted to scream, wanted to hit something, wanted to run. Instead, she stood, looked at Kane. I need air, she said. Sophie, don't. She held up a hand. Don't follow me. Don't touch me. Just... Her voice broke. Just give me a minute. She walked out, down the corridor, out into the prison yard. The air was cold, clean. Sophie pressed her hands to her face and finally let herself fall apart. Kane found her 20 minutes later. She was sitting on a bench, staring at nothing. He sat beside her, didn't speak, just waited. Finally, Sophie said, I don't know if I can forgive this. I know. You used me, manipulated me, let me suffer because it was convenient for you. Yes. And you're not even trying to defend yourself. What defense is there? Kane's voice was quiet, raw. I did everything Renata said. I knew what she was planning, and I let it happen because it gave me what I wanted. You. Sophie's throat tightened. That's not love, Kane. That's obsession. I know. Then why, because I'd already lost you once. Because I spent 10 years looking for you. Because when I finally found you, you were with another man, living a life that didn't include me. His voice cracked. And I couldn't stand it.
couldn't accept it. So yes, I used Renata's plan. I let you be destroyed so I could save you, so I could give you no choice but to come back to me. That's sick.
I know.
Kane turns to her. I know it's sick. I know it's wrong. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know everything after that was real. Every moment, every word, every choice to be better. That was all real. Sophie's eyes burned. How do I believe that? I don't know. His voice was rough. But I'm asking you to try. I'm asking you to look at the last 2 years, at what we've built, at our daughter sleeping in her crib, and decide if that's worth salvaging.
Sophie closed her eyes. The last 2 years. The garden on the roof. The quiet mornings. The way Kane looked at their daughter like she was the only thing that mattered. The way he'd changed. Really changed. Not perfectly, but genuinely. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I hate that you did this. That you let me suffer. That you started us with a lie. I know. And I hate that I still love you anyway. Kane's breath caught. Sophie, but I do. She opened her eyes, looked at him. I love you, despite everything, despite this. And I don't know if that makes me strong or weak or just broken. It makes you human. Kane's hand found hers. It makes you the best thing that ever happened to me, even though I don't deserve it. Sophie's fingers tightened on his. If we do this, if I choose to forgive this, I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more secrets, ever. No more manipulation. No more using me for your plans. Her voice was steady. I need to know that what we have from this moment forward is real, completely, no matter how ugly the truth is. I promise. Kane pulled her close. No more secrets. No more lies. Just us. However messy that is. Sophie leaned into him, let herself be held, and tried to believe they could survive this too. Tasink. They didn't go back inside. Didn't give Renata the satisfaction of seeing them broken. They left the prison hand in hand, drove home in silence. When they got back to the penthouse, their daughter was awake, crying. Sophie picked her up, held her close. The crying stopped. Kane stood in the doorway watching. I'm going to be better, he said quietly. For her, for you. I'm going to be the man you see when you look at me, not the monster I've been. Sophie looked at him over their daughter's head. I'm going to hold you to that. Good. He crossed to them, wrapped his arms around both of them, and for a moment, just a moment, everything felt right. 6 months later. Sophie stood in a boardroom she'd helped design, clean, modern, filled with light. This was Kane's new company, completely legitimate. Tech investments, real estate, venture capital, nothing criminal, nothing violent, just business. He'd walked away from everything else, sold what he could, shut down what he couldn't, burned the rest, and built something new. Sophie was proud of him, even when it was hard, even when old associates came calling, even when he had to make impossible choices. He'd kept his promise. No more secrets, no more lies, just them, building something worth keeping. The boardroom door opened. Kane walked in, suit and tie, every inch the legitimate businessman. But Sophie still saw the danger underneath, the sharpness in his eyes, the controlled violence in the way he moved. It would always be there, part of who he was. But he'd learned to channel it, to use it for something other than destruction. Ready? He asked. Ready. They'd established a foundation together, for survivors of domestic violence, for women trapped in situations like Sophie had been with Felix. It was her project, her passion, and Kane had funded it without hesitation. Today was the launch. Press conference, ribbon cutting, the works. Sophie was terrified and exhilarated. They walked to the event together. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Sophie stood at the microphone and told her story. Not all of it. The edited version, the one that didn't mention mafia bosses or murder or midnight escapes from warehouses. But enough. Enough to make a difference. Enough to help other women see a way out. When it was over, Kane pulled her aside. I'm proud of you, he said. For what? For taking everything that happened and turning it into something good, something that helps people. Sophie's throat tightened. I learned from you.
No. He cupped her face. You did this yourself. I just gave you the resources. The strength was always yours.
Sophie kissed him, soft, grateful. I love you, she whispered. I love you too.
They stood there in the chaos of the launch, surrounded by people, but alone in the ways that mattered.
What happens now? Sophie asked. Their question, always their question. Kane smiled.
Now? He looked at their daughter, being held by his head of security across the room. Now we go home, put her to bed, and live the quiet life we fought so hard for. Sounds perfect. It won't be. His voice was honest. There will be hard days, old threats, new challenges. This doesn't end cleanly. I know, but we'll face it together. I know that too. They collected their daughter, got in the car, drove home through the city they'd nearly destroyed, and rebuilt, together.
At the penthouse, Sophie put their daughter to bed. Kane stood in the doorway, watching. When Sophie turned, he was smiling. What? She asked. Just thinking about how far we've come. From a warehouse to this? From strangers to this? He moved closer. You know, when I first saw you again in that conference room, I thought I could control this. Control you. Make everything go according to plan. How'd that work out?
Terribly. He laughed. You destroyed every plan I had, made me question everything, forced me to be better. Good. It is good. Kane pulled her close. Because this, us, our daughter, this life, it's better than anything I could have planned. Sophie rested her head against his chest, listened to his heartbeat, steady, strong, alive. We survived, she whispered. We did more than survive. Kane's voice was quiet, certain. We won. Sophie closed her eyes, let herself believe it. They'd won. Not cleanly, not without cost, but they'd fought through the darkness, through betrayal and violence and impossible choices, and come out the other side, together, scarred, changed, but whole. And that was enough. Mandig.
Years later, Sophie would look back on this moment. On standing in the quiet of their home with Kane's arms around her and their daughter sleeping peacefully, and she'd realize something. Love wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about finding someone without darkness. It was about finding someone whose darkness you could survive, whose flaws you could forgive, whose demons you could face together. Kane Varelli wasn't perfect. He never would be. He'd killed, lied, manipulated. He'd started their relationship with betrayal, and he'd spend the rest of his life making up for it. But he was hers, and she was his, in all the messy, complicated, dangerous ways that mattered. And sometimes that was enough. Sophie opened her eyes, looked up at the man who'd destroyed her life and rebuilt it, who'd lied to her and then spent years proving he could tell the truth, who'd shown her the worst of humanity and then fought to be the best version of himself. I choose you, she said quietly. Every day, despite everything, because of everything, I choose you. Kane's expression went soft, vulnerable in a way he only ever was with her. And I choose you, he said, for the rest of my life, however long that is, however hard it gets. I choose you. They stood there in the quiet, two people who'd survived impossible odds, who'd built something beautiful from ruins, who'd learned that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about being real and fighting for each other, every day, no matter what. Outside, the city glittered, full of possibility, full of danger, full of life. And inside they had this, a home, a family, a future, hard-won, precious, theirs, and that, finally, was enough.